Today, I'm sharing the most comprehensive cold email video I've ever put out. Everything you need to go from zero to booking meetings consistently at scale. If you don't know me, my name's Matt Lucero. I've sent over 10 million cold emails, booked over 4,000 sales meetings, and generated millions of dollars in revenue for clients across basically any B2B industry you can think of. This video is broken down into 4 key sections. First, infrastructure. You can't send cold emails at scale if your domains and email accounts are not set up correctly. Second is targeting and data. The wrong list makes everything else irrelevant. Third is scripting. That's what you actually say in the email and why most people get it completely wrong. And fourth, appointment setting, because replies don't mean anything unless you book them into actual sales calls. These 4 sections cover the entire cold email system. Miss any one of them and the whole thing falls apart. So strap in, take notes, and let's start building your email infrastructure from scratch. The number one reason why most businesses are unable to grow is simply because they do not have a steady stream of prospects that are ready to buy their services. That's why in today's video, I'm going to be showing you exactly step by step how you can build a cold email system that sends 1,000 targeted cold emails per day to your target audience without landing in the spam folder, so you can get a steady stream of buyers begging to work with you and not have to worry about where your next meeting comes from. So without further ado, let's dive straight in. All right, so how to send 1,000 cold emails per day without landing in the spam folder. That's the important part, because if you land in the spam folder, people aren't going to see your emails and you're not going to have a good time. So the first question you might be asking is, Matt, how do I know this works? And to answer that question, I've done this myself. So I'm currently sending thousands and thousands and thousands of cold emails per day over at my agency Nevo Marketing for our clients, and have gotten results like these: 62 meetings within the first 60 days, 10 meetings in a closed deal within 10 days, all kinds of stuff here. And we've booked over 100 sales qualified meetings for our clients just in the last month using cold email. These are people interested in wanting to buy their services. So you guys know that if you use this stuff and you actually apply it correctly, then you can get interested people wanting to buy your services and ultimately grow your business. So first thing I want to cover, sending more emails equals more leads. The number one problem that I see in most businesses today is that people don't know your business exists. You guys might have great products, you might have great services, but if you're not reaching out to people or doing any sort of sales activity to get in front of people's eyes, then they're not going to be able to buy your stuff because they don't even know you exist. So one of the ways that you can let them know that you exist is by sending them cold emails, and a lot of them. So this is the craziest chart you've ever seen in your entire life. The more cold emails you send, the more meetings you will book. I know, crazy concept, but the principle is true. The more eyeballs you get in front of, the higher chance you're going to get someone who's going to be interested in your service. So if you keep doing that sales activity, you keep sending cold emails, you're going to get people that are interested in your service just by virtue of getting in front of enough people. So we're going to cover first how to build the infrastructure, how to make sure you're not landing in the spam folder, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the different tools and how to make sure that you can implement this process inside your business. So first, talking about the sending infrastructure and the deliverability, how to build a cold email system itself. So before diving into the actual servers and softwares and whatnot, one of the principles that I want to relay over to you guys about building cold email infrastructure and overall making sure that you don't go to spam is to make sure everything you're doing is as human as possible. So make sure your sending pattern is as human as possible, and you just want to make sure your activity looks human. Even though we're going to be employing automation, the goal is to look human so that we don't land in the spam folder. So diving into the actual tools and the different ways to set up email servers. So you might have heard of different ways to send emails. You know, there's buying Amazon servers. You can use tools like SendGrid, ConvertKit, or MailChimp, which are typically used for newsletters, buying a VPS, or using individual email accounts. So the problem with most of these options, typically whenever you set up your own email server, the main problem is that you're left managing your own IP from the server, and this can be an issue. So if you're left to manage your own IP reputation, what ends up happening is that with time, you might end up on a blacklist. And if you end up on a blacklist, then that means everything associated with that server is going to go to spam, or might not even reach spam at all. It might just get bounced. And this is going to have to make it so that you're going to set up everything from scratch, and everything associated will go to spam. It's not a good time, and that's why I typically do not recommend setting up your own email server like a VPS or something to that extent. However, you can use the strategy of horizontal scaling, which we're going to cover, by using providers like Google or Microsoft. They have, Google Workspace or Outlook 365. They allow you to buy email accounts individually from them, and then Google or Microsoft will manage your IP reputation for you. So if your IP goes bad, they fix it, and then you're also sharing your IP along with other email users with normal email sending activity. So that is what I typically recommend, using a provider like Google or Microsoft in buying email accounts through there to set up your cold email infrastructure. So this will also allow you to make sure that your email sending looks human, because typical people either send emails from Google or Microsoft. That's where most people host their email accounts, and that's where most emails come from, not from an email server that's not associated with one of those two companies. So now that you've selected your email providers, you can either pick using Google or Microsoft. You're going to want to employ a tactic called horizontal scaling. So what this means is that instead of sending 1,000 emails off one account, which most of these guys won't let you do anyways, and if they did, you definitely shouldn't, because all your stuff is going to go to spam, you send less emails per inbox, but you get more inboxes. So here's a little diagram I put together showing this and what this looks like. So you're sending emails, instead of sending 1,000 from, one inbox, you might buy multiple domains, and then within those domains, you set up multiple email accounts, and within those multiple email accounts, you send out less emails per day. So spreading out this infrastructure, again, allows you to horizontally scale and not go to spam. So the reason why you want to do this is to mimic human activity. Again, we're all trying to mimic human activity, because again, it's not human activity. No normal person, no sane person is just going to send 1,000 emails per day from their email account, because if you do that, then you're going to end up going to spam. So we want to load out the emails we send across multiple accounts to spread out the infrastructure and mimic human activity with our automation. So we're not only going to buy multiple email accounts like inboxes, we're going to spread them across different domains to diversify the sending infrastructure and to look more human. So what this could look like, let's say your company is xyzmarketing.com. You could set up email accounts like joe@getxyzmarketing.com, joseph@getxyzmarketing.com. So you can see here, we're not only using different domains, like these are the .coms, but we're also using different users. So we're using Joe, Joseph. So yeah, domains, this is like the xyzmarketing.com, and then the users are like Joe or Joseph. So if you set up multiple of these and you spread out the load, this is what's ultimately going to allow you to send a lot of cold emails out without landing in the spam folder, because you're spreading out email sending. So you can typically send anywhere between 25, 35, sometimes even more, up to 50. I've heard even people send up to 100, which I probably wouldn't recommend, but you can send 25, 35, or maybe even more per day from each account safely. So I'd recommend getting around 35 email accounts to do this. This is talking about if you want to send 1,000 emails per day. So you'd have to get 35 email accounts, sending about 25 to 35 cold emails per day. Because of multiplication, that'll get you to 1,000 emails per day. The exact number of how many cold emails you can send per day might change with time, so keep that in mind. After you create these accounts, you're going to want to set up MX, DKIM, SPF, and DMARC records. What these allow you to do is to actually set up the email accounts. Some of these are basically what allows you to connect a domain to an email account in the first place, and then DMARC records help validate like that your email sender is coming from a real account and validating that it's not coming from a spoof sender. So all these DNS records are used to set up the email accounts and will allow you to be able to send and deliver these emails. So after you've set all these accounts up, you buy the accounts, you buy the domains, you set them up, you're going to want to source the leads. So you might be wondering, okay, we can send 1,000 emails per day. Where are we going to find 1,000 people per day to send the emails to? So the first caveat I'm going to want to say here is that if you send 1,000 emails per day, you're not necessarily going to need to have 1,000 net new people. People think, okay, you send 1,000 emails per day, you're going to need 1,000 new people. Not quite. The reason why is because some emails are going to be follow-ups to the same prospect. So the way that I like to structure most of my email campaigns, and what I recommend for you guys too, is to send multiple follow-ups to the same prospect, because some people are busy. They might see your first email and they're not interested right away. But if you keep following up with them, you might catch them at a better time where they're ready to buy your product. On average, let's say if you're sending a 4 email sequence, this means you're going to need to have 250 people per day, because you divide that out, or about 5,000 net new prospects per month. So I have a cold email masterclass. It's in the description. I have an in-depth section on how to source, scrape, and validate leads. But to recap quickly how you can do this, the first step is you're going to find a tool like Apollo or ListKit. There's many data providers on the market to find the exact leads that you want. You're going to filter by their criteria. So headcount, job title, the location, the technologies they might be using. You take all the criteria that you want, you plug them into these data tools, and then from there, you're going to be able to download the leads from these data tools, Apollo, ListKit. There's all kinds on the market. Then you're going to download the leads. You're going to validate these tools with a tool like Million Verifier or Never Bounce. What this essentially does is it takes the emails, sees that they are actually active and exist, because if you email to email accounts that don't exist, then they're going to bounce, which will ruin your email reputation. You don't want to do that. That's going to destroy the system and make your emails go to spam. So again, find the data, download the data that you want, validate the the list with a tool, format the list, and then upload it to a sending tool. So I have an in-depth video on my channel where I have a full process on how to build this list. It's also in the cold email masterclass, link in the description, so you can check that out once you're done with this video. The next question you might be asking is, Matt, I built out the infrastructure, I got the leads, how am I going to send out 1,000 emails per day? So you might have the scaffolding ready to be able to send these emails in the first place, but you're going to be wondering how you're going to actually send out the emails. So don't worry, you don't have to manually send these emails out. There's plenty of sending tools on the market that allow you to automatically send these emails out for you, because if you were sending all these emails out manually, this could be a total nightmare. So cold email sending tools, what they allow you to do is send cold emails out at scale while staying within the best practices guidelines to help you land in the inbox. There's a ton of different cold email tools on the market, but the main things you're going to want to make sure that the sending tool you has is, number one, rotating inbox structure. What this means is, like as in this structure here above, that the cold email sending tool will automatically cycle between the different inboxes within your system so that you are, not have to manually create new campaigns for each one of the email accounts. And it'll prioritize different email accounts based on the sending limits you have in each account. And then number two is spin tax. So we're going to cover that shortly, but essentially what this is allows you to send multiple variations of the same email to make it look more human. So the main tool that I recommend, at least right now, to achieve this is Smart Lead. They are, in my opinion, the best tool on the market right now. I have a video on my channel covering this. You can sign up using the link in the description. You can also watch this video here to have more information on Smart Lead and how to set up that tool. I mentioned spin tax earlier in this section. Why this is important to send thousands of cold emails per day is to make sure that your emails look human, even though you aren't manually sending them out. So whoa, what's that spin tax word you mentioned earlier? Essentially, when you're sending high volume of cold emails out per day, you're going to want to utilize a feature that should be in your sending tool called spin tax. So in the efforts to make sure that you look human, as we discussed earlier, making sure that you don't land in the spam folder, you're not going to want to send the exact same email again and again and again from your inboxes, because it makes you clearly look like a robot. So if you send the same email out and there's no variation, Google and Microsoft and all these email providers that have these different spam folders are going to recognize pretty quick, like, hey, this probably isn't a legit human because he's sending the same thing over and over and over again. So spin tax, what it is it's a feature that allows you to cycle between different variations of text within your emails to vary the exact wording of the emails that get sent out. And what this does is it allows you to have different unique combinations of emails that get sent out that aren't the exact same, so they look different to the email providers. Also allows you to get the same message across. So to give you an example of what this looks like, within your sending tool, you can send stuff like this where you format it and it says hi, hello, and hey. And what it'll randomly output is either hi, hello, or hey. So it's not going to send all three of these. It's going to randomly pick one of these words and input it inside your cold email. So how you can utilize spin tax in your email, it might look like this. You might say, hi, hello, hey, I came across your email account or your Instagram account and I want to reach out. We can help you generate 10,000 followers. There's multiple different variations here, and then it'll output one of these outputs. So you can see here, we put hi, hello, hey, came across, thought, wanted, add, generate, 30, 30. And what this might output in one email is I found your Instagram account, but in another email, it might say, I saw your Instagram account. And here you say, or you don't pay us, but over here it says guaranteed. And then you can vary up the different call to actions. So basically you want to utilize spin tax to make different variations of your email. So whenever you're sending out the emails, they don't look exactly the same, because if you send out the same email over and over again, Google and Microsoft and them will catch on and put your emails into the spam folder. So slight differences, same idea, use unique variations to make your emails look human. And this email with spin tax will result in hundreds of unique variations that will allow your email to look practically unique every single time. Because if you use like this spin tax snippet, for example, there's 3 variations here, 3 variations here, 2 here, all these add up, and this is going to have dozens and dozens and dozens, probably even hundreds of unique variations that make your emails look totally unique and make it so you're not sending the exact same email out every time. So note, not all sending tools have the same formatting for spin tax. You might have to look at your sending tool. For example, this is how it looks in Smart Lead, but if you're using a different sending tool, you might have to type out the spin tax in an exact different way. Not all sending tools have the exact same formatting for creating spin tax. So check the help documents for whatever sending tool you're using to confirm they have it as a feature and to make sure you're using their exact formatting. So go and build out the system. If you want to learn more tips and tricks about cold email, you can subscribe and check out my newsletter, moreleadsmoremoney.com. In the description, when you opt in, you're going to get full access to a cold email masterclass that I built out, showing you more in depth how to build out a system like this. And if you're currently running an an agency, consultancy, or B2B business doing over 30K a month, and you have a cold email system that you want me to manage, or you want me to build one out completely done for you, you can check out our website, anivomarketing.com. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the description and we can cover them in future videos. Otherwise, go send out those cold emails and go book some meetings. Thanks. All right, today we're going to be talking about how you can scrape 10,000 targeted leads in less than 5 minutes. We're going to try and make it less than 5 minutes. Maybe it'll take a little longer. So let's go. So first we're going to go off to apollo.io. This is a database tool where you can scrape a bunch of people. There's tons of different data tools. This is the one I'm going to use for the sake of this video. You can go sign up, make a free account. Next, we're going to want to determine who we want to even be reaching out to. So I'm going to use my company as an example, Anivo Marketing, and I'm going to look at one of my case studies, and we're going to use TickScale as the example. This is a content agency that we got good results for, and is also the people editing my videos. Shout out TickScale. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Apollo. We're going to go over to the companies tab, and then we're going to fill in the company that we want to find more leads like. And so you can see TickScale, they are listed as a marketing and advertising company under the industries tab, and the keywords we can click in and see: marketing services, video content, YouTube marketing, ads, all kinds of other stuff here. And so we're going to try and scrape more people like them. So I'm going to go over here now to the people tab in Apollo, and I'm going to build the list. I'm also going to take these keywords that I have in account when I'm building this list, and I'm also going to take the decision maker that signed the deal as an example of the types of people we're going to reach out to. So under email status, I'm going to press verified and unverified. This is going to show me emails that actually exist on Apollo's platform instead of people that don't have emails. Now for job titles, for the sake of speed, I'm not going to list out every possible potential decision maker. I'm going to go over this management level filter here and pick all the different seniorities of potential decision makers. So I'm doing director level and above. Now, if I wanted to reach out to people exactly like who I just reached out to, then we should only do founders or C-suite people. But again, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to be doing all possible decision makers. Now moving on here, I'm going to reach out to relevant job titles and departments. Now I sell B2B outreach as a service, and so I'm going to reach out to executive titles, I'm going to reach out to marketing titles, and I'm going to reach out to sales titles. So I'm going to go over to the C-suite box here. I'm going to take executive level people, founder level people, sales leaders, and marketing leaders, and this will give me all the C-suite people while layering in the management people. Now I'm also going to check the box for marketing and check the box for sales. So this is going to give me all marketing and all sales titles, but if you remember, we layered on these management levels here. So now we have all the relevant decision-making titles. I'm going to add in an employee headcount filter here, so that way we can reach out to people that have similar employee sizes. Now, if we look back to the companies tab here, you can see TickScale has 6 employees. I don't know how accurate it is, so I'm going to do at least 5 and all the way up to 100. And then finally, to make sure that we're reaching out to video agencies, I'm going to add the industry and keywords filters in here. And so first, we're going to start off with the industry filter of marketing and advertising, like was shown in the company tab here. Make sure I'm reaching out to other video marketing agencies. So you can see there's brand strategy, client case studies. These keywords aren't relevant to the type of company you're reaching out to. Video editing would be a good keyword. YouTube marketing would also be another good keyword. So I'm just going to include keywords like YouTube and video. And so this will filter for marketing and advertising companies that have the keywords YouTube or video on it, which are disproportionately going to be like marketing agencies that sell these types of services. So we're going to input that here. All right, awesome. So now we have YouTube video, marketing and advertising. You can see there are 27,000 people in Apollo with these keywords, and there is 16,000 I've already saved and paid for. And so that's what we're going to start with. And so I'm going to take this list and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to select 10,000 people for me to export. I'm going to press apply. Awesome. Now that they're all selected, I'm going to press export, and I'm going to export all emails. We are not done though, because some of these people might not be the correct and relevant decision makers. And also some of these people might not be running YouTube video agencies. And on top of this, we want to validate their emails. And so we're going to try and do that in the next minute or so here. All right, awesome. Apollo has exported all the people. So I'm going to press download here. And now I have all these 10,000 people. We're going to move on over to Clay. The reason why I like to use Clay is because you can stitch together a bunch of tools in one central place. So I'm going to create a new workbook. I'm going to import from CSV, and I'm going to install or upload the file that we just scraped here. And then we are going to press continue. All right. So now that I'm in Clay, I want to do 3 things or 2 things. I want to validate that these emails exist in the first place. And I also want to validate that these companies are even video agencies in the first place. So first I'm going to add enrichment, and I'm going to add my million verifier verification code in here. I'm going to input the email that I want want to verify here, and I'm going to apply this. And what this will allow me to do is verify all these emails in one place without having to download it and upload it into another software, or download it and upload it into another tool. And so now you can see here, we have emails and they are verified or they're not verified. Then moving on here, we're going to want to use AI to make sure that these companies actually are video agencies. I'm going to go over here to Claygen. I'm going to pick a model that is actually cheap and affordable. And then I'm going to use my own API key. And then I'm going to do a super simple prompt. I want you to visit this website and tell me if they are a video or a marketing agency that sells YouTube content or video services. If they are, output true. If they aren't, output false. Return nothing else except for true or false. Awesome. We're going to save and run this. And now you can see, not only have we got all these leads really fast, we validated them, we made sure that they're good to reach out to, and then we're also going to layer on AI to see that these companies are the companies we want to be reaching out to in the first place. Cool. And now you can see that the hit rate on this list, because I'm doing this very quickly, is about 50%. So what I could do, one thing, is either just run this whole list, get the 50% or so of these that are actually accurate, or I could go back to Apollo and play around with the filters here. I could tighten it up like I did here and change the keyword to video editing instead of just video, and this will get me a little bit more accurate. Or if I'm happy with this, I can go ahead and just run this column all 10,000 times. Same here, run this column all 10,000 times, and then you will have a big, large list of clean people you can reach out to. And if you want to get the full, I just scraped 10,000 here. If you want 10,000 clean, accurate people, you're probably going to need to scrape a little bit more than that. So hopefully this is useful. If you want to build a quick list, this is exactly how you can do it. Now there's all kinds of other stuff you can do in Clay here to make sure your lists are more accurate, more clean. Make sure that you're reaching out to more than just one segment out of time. Obviously, I'm just doing this quick for the sake of this video. All right, in this video, I want to show you guys an AI prompt that you can use to generate tens, hundreds, or even thousands of domains at a time if you're trying to do cold email outreach and you're trying to generate large lists of domains you can potentially use to use as lookalike domains for email outreach. For context, my name is Matt Lucero. I have thousands of domains, or maybe even tens of thousands. I think it's just thousands of domains that we've set up to this point. And this prompt has been really useful, that instead of having to come up with each individual domain idea, check to see if it exists, I can just help create them en masse, plug them into a domain registrar, and then set them up so I can use them for cold outreach. So including this video, I have this Claude project here. If you haven't used an AI tool, like a project is basically just a prompt that you set up once. That way you can come back to it in the future. So if you want to prompt it again, I have this prompt set up here. If you check the description somewhere, there should be somewhere where you can copy and paste this or find this so you can use it yourself. What's really nice here is, so for example, I want to set up domains. Let's say I was google.com and I want to set up a bunch of lookalike domains to do outreach from. I can just say generate 50 look-alike domains for I'm gonna just put google.com, and then using this prompt, it'll go through and just spit out a bunch of these different domains that then I can plug in. I can just copy and paste these into my favorite domain registrar. And I really just want to make this video to give this away if anyone finds value in it. So this is a super short video. Again, if you're doing cold outreach, you're going to need to generate a lot of domains to do outreach from, and this prompt has been immensely useful. And so hopefully someone out there can use this prompt and plug it in and hopefully save you a bunch of time. That way you don't have to manually click through and generate all these domain names one by one by one. Next, we're going to cover email infrastructure. So first, we're going to talk about why volume matters and why deliverability matters, because the first thing I hear a lot of people ask me is like, why do you need to send so many emails? It sounds like a lot. Why can't I just send, a couple of emails? The reason why is because cold email and sales, for that matter, is fundamentally a numbers game. I say that because most people think they are selling a product or service, they can go to 5 people and one of them is going to buy, but in reality, only 3% of a market at any given point is actively looking to buy the service that you have. So the more emails that you send, the more people that you're going to find. Most people that you're reaching out to, even if they're highly targeted or relevant people, aren't going to be in market for your service. So if you want to generate serious results and meetings for your business, volume is critical. Now, again, if you really just want a couple extra meetings per month and you're using cold email to get that done, you might not need to send a ton of emails. You might need to send a couple thousand a month. But if you're looking to generate 10 meetings a month, 20 meetings a month, 100 meetings a month, you're going to have to get in front of a lot of people, because again, you have to think most of the people you're reaching out to aren't going to be interested in your service and are not going to be in market for your service, let alone trust you or think you're the right person. And so you have to reach out to so many people just to get some of those people interested and a fraction of those people on a call and a fraction of those people to purchase your services or your products. So just keep in mind that it is a numbers game. If you want to be able to send 10,000 or more cold emails per day that don't land in spam, you're going to need to have a variety of domains and email accounts. I call this horizontal scaling. So this is speaking more so the deliverability. Whenever we're scaling up and sending this kind of volume, we're not just having one email account where we're sending 10,000 emails a day from, because if you do that, you're quickly going to have your domain reputation fall, your email land on a blacklist, and cause all of your company emails to land in spam, which is not good. So Google technically allows you to send 2,000 emails per day per account. They publish that somewhere on their site. But realistically, they're going to flag you if you send anywhere near that for an extended period of time and to cold leads. One of the biggest factors in having your deliverability dialed and making sure that people see your emails, even though you're sending a high volume, is that people aren't reporting you as spam. And fundamentally, if you're sending a lot of emails to people, even if they're highly targeted, some people are going to report you as spam just because they're not interested and they don't like getting cold emails. And so if you want to send this type of volume, even 100 emails per day, you're going to want to set up multiple email accounts so that you can spread out your email sending volume. So I like to think of sending limits as kind of like an invisible speed limit. Google and Microsoft don't publish and say, hey, you can send exactly 20 cold emails per day. They have a complex algorithm. It's a black box that ultimately determines whether emails are going to be seen or land in spam. And so the higher the speed, the more likely you are to get pulled over. I like to think of this as a car analogy. If you're going 100 miles an hour, you're more likely to get pulled over than if you're driving 10 miles an hour. And the same thing is true with the email accounts. This is why we set up multiple email accounts that allows you to spread out your volume across multiple different providers. So instead of having one email account and one domain, we're going to set up multiple domains. This is going to allow you to spread out your email volume and not get flagged. So to use the car analogy, instead of having one car that goes 100 miles an hour, we're going to have 5 cars that go 20 miles an hour. And this is going to allow you to not get pulled over. So starting with 10,000 cold emails per day, again, sounds like a lot, and you should begin a lot smaller unless you have a giant addressable market and you really just want to kick things off big. The key to doing this is to balance high volume with spam. You want to make sure your sending emails are also relevant. I know a lot of people can also send 10,000 cold emails per day, but if you don't target properly, and we're going to talk about this in the strategy section, if you're not reaching out to the relevant people, you are fundamentally just sending spam, which is not only not a good thing to do, but also it's going to make your life a lot more miserable. So again, start small and then you can scale up into this. Once you have a market segment that's proven and you're getting good response rates and your emails are relevant, then you can talk about scaling it up to like 10,000 a day. I would say, again, if you're starting out 100 emails a day, 500 emails a day, 1,000 emails a day, I typically start with 1,000. If you're really small and you want to get started very, very small and only get like a handful of extra meetings, you might want to start with 100 or 500. All right, so diving into setting up your email infrastructure, the first thing we're going to talk about is calculating your domain and account needs. So you said, awesome, Matt. You said you need to set up multiple domains. How many domains do we need to set up? How many email accounts do we need to set up? General rule of thumb is that each email account can send roughly 20 to 25 cold emails per day. Now, again, Google, Microsoft, all these providers technically say you can send infinite emails or 2,000 emails or whatever it is. But if you do this over a prolonged period of time, the email accounts are going to die out. Just like your car might be able to drive 200 miles an hour, but if you drive 100, someone's going to pull you over. It's the same idea here. So for example, if you want to send 10,000 cold emails per day, you can divide that by 25, which is the amount of cold emails per account per day, which means you need roughly 400 email accounts. Or if you divide by 20, that means 500 email accounts. Again, general rule of thumb, these speed limits and a lot of the deliverability stuff is a black box, and these targets might change. Today, it might be 20 to 25 cold emails per account per day. Tomorrow, it might be 30 to 35, and the day after, it might be 10 to 15. Again, general rule of thumb, and this is what we've seen work well over the past years or so of doing this. I typically also recommend overshooting this a little bit. That way, you have a little bit of margin of error and safety. That way, you can go a little bit under these limits. Again, if the speed limit, let's say here is 20 to 25 miles an hour, if you don't want to get pulled over, you should probably be going 15. Now, again, the speed limit in this case is something that's variable. It's a black box. Google and Microsoft determine it based on a lot of different factors, but this is just a general rule of thumb. Another thing you can even do is set up 2x the amount of required accounts. That way, in case anything does go wrong, you have a little bit of stuff that is sidelined and ready to go in case something comes up. So for the customer that I referenced above here, you can see we have just under 800 email accounts, and we're going to set up even more. That way, we have additional email accounts on the sidelines in case anything goes wrong. And that way we have additional longevity and we can go a little bit under the best practice that we even give here. So after you determine the amount of emails you want to have, you're going to go ahead and set up these email accounts. Now, before we set up the email accounts, we need to buy the domains. That is where the email accounts are going to be hosted. So to get around the email limitations, again, you're going to need to create multiple domains that are similar to your main one. This is another common question. How do I make domains, or how do I set up these domains that also align with my branding? All you have to do is just take your main domain and then add suffixes or prefixes or slightly change it. So for example, if your main website is google.com, you might purchase getgoogle.com or trygoogle.com. You can purchase these domains from any major registrar. It doesn't really matter. GoDaddy, Porkbun, Squarespace, anyone that sells domains, for the most part, it's going to be fine. I haven't found much performance difference between domain registrars, or I haven't noticed it at least. So just whatever domain registrar you want to get, you're going to go out and purchase these domains. If you want to generate domains at scale, I have an AI prompt here. So for anyone that uses ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, here's a prompt you can use to easily plug and play and generate a bunch of domains. You can copy and paste this in, then plug your domain, and it'll output a bunch of different variations. That way you can go out and purchase your domains. Now, in addition to this, we're going to talk about how to set up the email account. So after you buy your domains, you're going to set up your email accounts. You have three main options for email providers. There's Google, there's Microsoft, and there's private servers. Google, reliable. Microsoft, also reliable. Private servers, it can be hit or miss. It really just depends on the specific provider you're going with, and some providers are better or worse. That way, my general recommendation is just to stick to Google and Microsoft because they're big, reputable companies and they maintain their IPs well and they have reputation. If you really, really want the best blend of everything, I recommend blending all three of them. But if you want to have the short, simple answer, you can pick one or two of these, and I would err on the side of caution and pick Google or Microsoft. Now, again, Google is performing well as the time of the recording of this video, so we primarily use that, but these things, again, change, which is why the best approach is to have a blend of all three. The second best approach might be to pick Google and Microsoft since they're the big box ones. And then if you really just want the simplest approach, you can just pick one of these. Private servers are easier to set up with the solutions out there on the market. You can also manually set up Google and Microsoft. So my also recommendation is to only set up 1 to 3 emails per domain. That way it protects your domain reputation. You don't want to go out and have 50 different email accounts on this one domain. Again, you want to horizontally scale this and spread this out as much as possible. Ideally, less is more. So some people recommend having up to 5 email accounts per domain. I recommend only having 1 to 3 accounts per domain to protect your domain reputation and, again, to have longevity on your setup. Now, after you went ahead and you purchased your domains and you set up the email accounts, you're going to want to configure your DNS records. So for optimal deliverability, you're going to need to set up your DNS records. These are your SPF records, your DKIM records, and DMARC records. These are all configured through your domain registrar in your DNS settings. And if you're setting up through a Google or a Microsoft, it's going to walk you through these steps. So whenever you're going to Google and you're setting it up, you go to workspace.google.com, or you go to Microsoft and you start buying these email accounts. A lot of the setup here is going to be walked through whenever you go to the websites to actually purchase the email accounts themselves. So additional deliverability tips, adding profile pictures to Google accounts. I say Google accounts specifically because Google shows your profile picture to other people on Google's network. For example, Microsoft doesn't do that. And if you send a Google email to a Microsoft email, it's not going to show up. But if you're using Google accounts, having a profile picture makes you seem a little bit more personable. And so I'd recommend that. While it's not necessarily strictly a deliverability tip, it can help improve your results and make it less likely that people report you as spam. Also, for your sending domains to your main domain. So for example, if you have trygoogle.com, send it back to google.com. That way, if people look up your domains, it'll go back to your main one. And again, preserve your branding. And then thirdly, age your domains as long as possible before sending. Ideally, we're going to talk about warm up here in a second, but older domains typically have better deliverability than newer domains for obvious reasons. Domains that have been around for longer have more reputation and are more likely to be trusted. So again, recapping, we went, calculate the amount of domains we need, we purchased them, we set up the email accounts under them, again, by going to Google or Microsoft's website or going to a private server site like mailreef.com. You configure your DNS records, and now we're going to want to connect it to a sending tool. So we have all our accounts set up. Now we want to connect it to a sending tool. That way we can sequence all these together at scale. So most email marketing tools, and this is a question I get a lot too, people are asking me, why can't I use MailChimp or Constant Contact or any one of these big tools, and why do I have to do this horizontally scaled structure? The reason why is because these tools are built to email people that have already opted into an email list. And also, these tools explicitly put in their terms of service that you need to be reaching out to people that have opted in. The reason why is they want to protect their own IPs, their own reputation. And again, they will kick you off their platforms if you do this. So you're going to want to use a tool like Smart Lead or Instantly, and other tools like HubSpot, Outreach, and Zoom Info don't have most of the cutting edge cold email tools or the most cold email features. That way, you can't sequence tons of email accounts together like what we're talking about here. So again, the main tools I recommend are smartly.ai and instantly.ai. Both these tools are great tools. They have very similar feature sets. There's plenty of tools on the market. These are my two personal recommendations, and they have a big feature set. The one that we personally use is Smart Lead, but again, Instantly is a good option, and it doesn't really matter which one you use all too much, depending on the exact features you need. Both of these tools allow you to connect all these emails, so like hundreds of emails or dozens of emails or even a handful of emails together, and they allow you to sequence them together. That way you can reach out to people and use their built-in warm-up networks to build reputation. I'm going to talk about what warm-up is in a second here as well. Another neat thing about Smart Lead and Instantly is that they can help automate a lot of this process for you. So you can also purchase, set up domains, set up email accounts, configure DNS records all within these platforms themselves. And so you can take a look at them once you sign up to one of these two platforms. So after you pick your platform, you set up all your email accounts, you have the platform set up, you're going to want to enable warm-up. So once you've created your email accounts and you've connected them to one of these platforms, you're going to want to enable warm-up. Now, the next question is, what is warm-up? Whenever you set up email accounts, they are not going to have any prior reputation because they're fresh email accounts. What warm-up is basically the process of sending emails to other people on the warm-up network, thus give you a track record and reputation and show to Google and Microsoft and these other platforms that your accounts are in fact legitimate and that they're sending normal emails. So warm-up works by automatically sending emails to other users on the network who then open your emails, reply to them, and mark them not as spam. Again, making your emails look more legitimate and improving your deliverability. So this boosts your email account reputation, helps remove them from spam if they are landing in spam, and significantly increases the longevity of your email account. So inside Smart Lead, Instantly, or similar tools, this is all in the settings tab. If you sign up to one of these tools, you will see it there. And the approach is to gradually warm up your email accounts. That way they have extended longevity. So as a pro tip, keep your warm up to cold email sending ratio 1-to-1. So if you're sending 20 cold emails per day, you should send about 20 warm up emails per day. This is a general rule of thumb. Things change, but if you're looking for a simple answer, once you connect these tools, you will see that is a pretty good ratio. And most importantly, never turn off warm up. This helps increase your account's longevity and makes it so that they have as big of a runway as possible to have a good result. So just to recap the final setup process, set up the email accounts, add them all to your chosen tool, enable warm up for at least 14 days before launching any campaigns. And then this process will gradually increase the reputation and will make it less likely that your emails land in spam. When done correctly, this will allow you to send emails at scale, avoid spam folders, protect your domain's reputation, consistently send high volume, and also preserve your main domain. So that is the infrastructure in a nutshell. And now we're going to move on to strategy. All right, so now you've got your infrastructure locked in, your domains are set up, your accounts are warming, and your sending tool is ready to go. But none of this matters if you're sending to the wrong people. So this next section is where most people mess up before they even write a single email. So let's talk about who you should actually be reaching out to. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down Apollo.io. I'm going to show you exactly how you can generate leads, book more meetings, and close more deals using the data and the tools provided in their platform. For a little bit of context, my name is Matt Lucero. I've scraped hundreds of thousands of leads off of Apollo and used it for a little more than 2 years at this point to help us book more than 2,000 sales meetings for our customers. And we've used a lot of their data to contribute to the millions of emails we've sent to book those meetings for our customers. So I know a thing or two about Apollo, and hopefully I'm going to share some of that with you in this video here. So let's just dive straight in. All right, so diving into Apollo, first I'm going to do a quick overview of the platform. If you want to check out their site, it's apollo.io, or you can check out one of the links in the description to do a quick overview of what the platform does. Basically, you can do almost everything outbound related in one platform. So you can search and find contacts and accounts you want to reach out to. You can score them, and then you can engage them by doing outbound sequences, email, calling, all through their platform. You can track the meetings, track the deals, set the meetings through the platform, and then you can also check the analytics and whatnot. They have a bunch of different features in the platform. If you check out their pricing, it starts at free, which is awesome. You can get a free plan, you get 10 export credits a month, some mobile credits, some basic features, and then as you scale up, Apollo builds based on a credit-based system. So if you want more leads, you want to export more leads off the platform, then you upgrade your plans, and then you can also go up to these higher tier organization plans. Now, diving into Apollo, like I said, there's a bunch of different features. What I want to focus a lot of this video on is the prospecting features. So that's their database that has all the people, the companies, building lists through Apollo, and then a little bit of the data enrichment. Now you can see here, once you jump into Apollo, you go to this home screen, there's tons of different features like I just outlined. You can reach out to the leads, you can track the leads, you can do basically everything in this platform. What I think Apollo excels at, and what I recommend using Apollo the most for, is the actual database. Being able to search people, find companies, build lists, and then sequence them in other platforms is my preferred way of doing it. I like using tools like Smartly to do email sequencing, use Close and other power dialers to do the calling, and then use a traditional CRM like HubSpot or Close to track the meetings, use Calendly for like all these individual things. Point is that you can use Apollo for almost all of these in one centralized platform, but what I want to focus the bulk of this video on is on the data and how to generate the leads that you can then plug into the sequences, so then you can book those in for calls and have that as part of your pipeline. So first I'm going to quickly go over some of the other features, then we're going to spend a bulk of this video going over building lists and showing you exactly how we use it. Like I said, we've sent millions and millions of emails for our customers at this point. I've used Apollo for a little over 2 years, so I'm pretty familiar with the platform. On the left hand side here, if you want to like do the sequences, this is where you can build a sequence. They have a feature where you can build sequences with AI, like the actual email sequences. If you want to send emails, you can connect mailboxes here. You agree to their terms of service, you can link it, and then you can run your sequences on the left-hand tab here. If you want to call people, again, you can get a phone number, run dials, and then you can track the analytics here. Let's dive into the data feature, because I think that is the best part of Apollo and what I use it primarily for. Over here on the left-hand side, you can see these are all the ways you can filter leads. You can search names, you can add them to lists or filter out lists you already have. You can search by email status to make sure they have an email, job titles, company, location, employees, industry, buying intent, SIC codes, tech, revenue, and a bunch more here. Like this is all the different filters they have. First, I'm going to start just like a simple overview, and then I'll show you an example of a list and how I would build that. So over here on the top left, you can see whenever you're building a list, you can see these three different boxes here. The first one is the total amount of leads in the search. Since I don't have any search run right now, you can see the total amount of leads in Apollo as of right now is 220 million. Apollo, I believe, searches a bulk of their data from LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is probably the best place to scrape data from, mainly because people self-report data, and not just self-report data, but they talk about the company, the website, the job title, all this stuff. And it's accurate because, again, people are out there saying, hey, this is my job title, here's where I work. And, it's probably the best place you can source data. And why Apollo has such high quality data is because they get it a lot from LinkedIn, based on my understanding. Maybe Apollo's team can correct me, but that's where I believe they source a bulk of their data from. And then you can see here the net new section. These are leads that you don't have saved. And then the save section are the leads you do have saved. You can see I've saved over 600,000 leads in here, and there's 219 million that I don't have saved. So let's go ahead and just go through some of these features. So this name feature, this is if you want to look up a specific person. So if you type in Matt Lucero, my name, you can see there's going to be all the Matt Luceros that pop up. I might have to type in Matthew Lucero because I think that's what's on my LinkedIn. And you can see here's all the Matthew Luceros. I'm sure if I scroll through, I can find myself somewhere here. So that's the name section. Then there's lists. I'm going to go through lists and how I like to save leads whenever we get to that section. And then email status. So you can see there's 5 tabs here. Now, depending, they had another feature here where it said likely to engage and a bunch of other stuff. I think they might have rolled back that feature, or depends on what account you're looking on. But these are the typical statuses they have. There's verified, guest, user managed, new data available, and NA. NA means that they don't have an email. User managed, I think, is when you upload it, a lead into here. And then verified and guest. These are the 2 boxes I check 90% of the time. This just means Apollo has an email and they either verified it at some point or that it's guest. Now, whenever Apollo says verified, it's not real-time verified. it means it was verified at some point. So if you're going to use this in an email sequencing campaign, then you want to throw this through a third-party validator. I like using a tool like Listmint or Million Verifier. There's Never Bounce, Debounce. There's a million tools that do this. But just keep in mind that when it says verified, that doesn't mean it's real-time verified. My experience is if I pull data off Apollo, probably about 5 to 10% aren't going to be valid. So you're going to, again, want to clean this up. Job titles, very useful. This is where you can plug in and search for job titles. So if I'm doing decision makers at small businesses, I might do CEO, owner, and founder as an example. So I'm going to throw this in here. The cool thing, again, Apollo does this, and I think I take it for granted at this point, but if you're using a database like Sales Navigator from LinkedIn and you type CEO, you might also have to type Chief Executive Officer because CEO is just 3 words. And so if someone says they're a chief executive officer, you might have to punch that in. Apollo is smart enough to know that if you put in CEO, they also search people whose job title is chief executive officer. Another thing Apollo does is if you're trying to make a search and you want to be an exact match, you can put it in quotes. So if I put president in here, then it will only show me people that have the word, exactly president. So this is an example of how you can build out job titles. If you don't want to include, or if you want to include past job titles, which I don't really see the use case here, at least in the campaigns I run, you can tick this box and then you can exclude job titles. So for example, I don't want to include, let's say, vice president. So I'll put VP and I'll also put vice. So if they have vice before president, then it won't show up. So I'm going to throw in that as an example, or I'll just put VP in to keep it simple. Company. So if I want to search for a specific company, so let's say, for example, apple.com, I want the CEO, owner, founder, president of apple.com. Now, there's probably going to be a little bit of junk data because random people on LinkedIn are going to say they're the CEO of Apple, which you can see not a lot. There's a lot of examples here. And yeah, you can also see another example. We put the word owner and it'll show business owner because we didn't use exact match. But if I want to find the CEO, owner, founder, president at a specific company, I can punch that in. Apollo has another really good feature here where if you have a giant list of companies you want to prospect into, you can just paste that here and then it'll, again, filter all the people that meet that criteria within that specific list. Location, you can filter location based on contact or account HQ. So if I want to find decision makers that live in the United States, I can put that here. If I don't care where the decision maker lives, I can just set the account headquarters to the United States, and then I don't care if the contact lives abroad or vice versa. You can also select zip code radius. I do use this a lot if I want to run localized campaigns. Employee headcount. This is very useful if you're running any sort of outbound campaigns. You want to filter out small companies, big companies, or anywhere in between. You can filter by headcount. Again, this data is sourced from LinkedIn, I believe, which is pretty accurate, except if you're doing like blue collar type industries. So if you're going into contractors, plumbers, electricians, those types of businesses, your average contractor is not saying, hey, I work for XYZ Plumbing. They're probably not even on LinkedIn at all. So just keep that in mind when you're doing employee filtering here. But it's typically pretty accurate, especially for white collar businesses. Industry and keywords. This is very useful if you want to filter it between the specific industries. Apollo has a very large list of industries you can pull from here, and then you can layer on keywords. So for example, if you want to reach out to SaaS companies, you might set the industry to information technology and then put a keyword of software or technology. And then buying intent, I actually don't use this feature inside Apollo. The reason why is because when you're running outbound campaigns, again, at least how I like to run them, I like to source intent my own ways. So for example, if you're selling a SEO service, I'm not just going to use a tool that says, hey, this person's in market for SEO. I'm going to go and find other indications myself to see that they're in market for SEO. So for example, if they're following a SEO company, that could be one way that I would source intent. Or I could check their website and see how many blogs they have. There's a lot of stuff you can use external tools to use. This is a feature they have. I haven't really tried it. I wouldn't recommend it because I haven't tried it. But I in my experience from peers and colleagues who I know have used these types of features, that they get comparable results from just not using it, and it adds more money or it adds more cost to the platform. So I personally don't use it. SIC codes, if you're going to use SIC codes, they have that. Technologies, again, very useful. So like I was saying earlier, if I want to search for intent for an SEO tool, I might see if they're using an SEO specific tool like SEMrush. I think that's an SEO tool at least. Someone watching this video is probably gonna be like, no, that's not an SEO tool, but I think it is. Anyways, they also have a revenue filter. Again, I'm just sharing outside of Apollo's native features, what I personally like to do after sending millions of emails. I found revenue filters not to be very accurate at all. Again, the reason why is because Apollo is making an estimate here. Unless you're reaching out to public companies where that data is public and accurate, if you're trying to say, hey, I work with companies that are doing $1 million to $5 million a year in revenue, Apollo is just taking an estimated guess because all these companies are private. And I like to use other features like employee headcount to make a better judgment, mainly because employee headcount is more accurate than revenue. So I rarely use this feature. Apollo has it. They're estimates at the end of the day. I'm not a big fan of using this, and I personally don't recommend it. And then funding. So this is good if you're trying to target companies that have raised a round or, you know, have a specific type of funding that you want to reach out to. Job posting is another useful one. You can check to see if they're hiring for a specific role. Really good if you're doing any sort of staffing-led campaign. And there's a much more features inside here. The ones I have pinned on the left-hand side are the ones I most commonly use. And you can see there's even more. So you can filter based on territories. If you're doing all your prospecting inside Apollo, you can assign it to specific people. You can do headcount growth. There's a million other things inside this filtering section here, but I'd say the ones that I've pinned on the left-hand side are the most useful, at least for my use case, and probably for most of the people watching. But yeah, you can assign specific leads to specific people. You can have different lead stages, again, if you're integrating with Apollo's native features, but this is an example of a search. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to show you an example search and how you could potentially leverage this in a campaign. So over in this new tab, I have a search that I just made an example of. So this is me trying to filter for companies that are managed IT companies, or I can actually filter out the IT consulting firm. So let's again say that I'm trying to reach out to managed IT companies. For the people who are watching who don't know what it is, it's basically the people that set up computer systems, networking, and manage that for companies in an outsourced fashion. What I went ahead and did to filter for that is I added email status, I added the job titles, I filtered out job titles I didn't want, I put the person location, I set a employee headcount arbitrarily for this video. And then under the industry and keyword section, I picked a few industries that looked relevant given the people we're trying to reach out to. And I included a couple keywords that would filter out every IT company in the world to ones that specifically do managed IT by layering in those keywords. This gives us about 500 people. Now, again, for the sake of this video, this is just a sample search. If you want to get really granular, you would have to tweak these filters a little bit more. I'm sure there's keywords I'm excluding that I could include, and there's better ways to filter and expand out and get more decision makers at IT companies. So this is just an example. Now, if I want to export this and run this into a campaign, one way of doing this is I can select all the people here. Again, I can filter by people that I don't have saved and people I do have saved and just the total amount. So you can see here, this was I ran a campaign to manage IT companies in the past, and so you can see I've had some that I've saved here. If I want to scrape all these 500 people, I can simply just select all, press apply, and then once it pops up here in a second, we can either add these to a list or just directly export these. Or, you know, again, if you're using Apollo's native sequencing function, you can add them to a new sequence and you can run it inside Apollo. Again, I personally like to export these off to a different platform, so I can add this to a list. Let's call this YouTube sample managed IT list, and then I can save this. And so you can see just like that, it's starting to get the emails of all these people and it's adding them to a list. Now I'm going to refresh this list and you can see now all these leads have converted to saved. And if I go over here to this list section, I can see all the people that I just saved in this list. Now, if I want to actually export these people, you can see it takes a second to load. There's only 191. So I'm going to refresh this page really quick. All right, so now that you can see I refreshed the page here, you can see all 491 people that we saved all in this nice, neat little list. And if I go here, select all, and press apply, and then I export these leads, then I can have this in a CSV that I can then upload into Clay, Smart Lead, or a million other tools if I actually want to run campaigns to these people. Again, if you want to use this natively in Apollo 2, you can do that as well here. But yeah, that's a super simple search showing you how you can scrape leads and export them off of Apollo. Now, going into a little bit more advanced features inside of Apollo, one of them is this companies feature. Now, this feature in and of itself isn't particularly advanced. This is where you can filter just off of account accounts or companies instead of specific people. But this is one feature I like to use in Apollo to make a really, really targeted lead list. What I end up doing here is on the left-hand side, if you go into companies and you want to build a highly targeted list, again, of like managed IT companies, what I would recommend you do is you go into this companies section here, paste in a bunch of ideal companies, press save and search. And then let's imagine here, I'm going to go to this people list that I had before. Give me 1 second. Okay, so what I went ahead and did here is I took the people list search criteria that I built in the people tab, and then I actually transferred this over to the companies tab. So I can throw in the employee filter here. Basically what I did is I just took the same filters and put it on the company level instead of the people level. Now I have, for example, 700 companies here. Again, this isn't the exact same criteria. I'm just trying to do this quick for the sake of the video. But here's an example list of companies. What I can then do here, if I want to make an ultra targeted list, is I can save these companies, export them, and upload them here. Or I can just look here and say, okay, a lot of these look like managed IT companies. And then I can click in and find specific keywords that can help me broaden out my search. So one problem is if I say, hey, I'm putting the keywords managed IT and help desk, and I just assume that's going to get me all the managed IT companies, that's likely not true, because there's a million other long tail keywords like cybersecurity, for example, here that we can then pull in, or telephony, or compliance, or a million other of these keywords. And so what I like to do whenever I build lists is you can either start off in the people tab or the companies tab. But if you have an idea of the people you want to reach out to, you make a small list of what those people look like, and then use the filters inside of each one of these company tabs to see what the commonalities were on keywords. So for example, if we're trying to reach out to managed IT companies, I'd make a giant list of IT, managed IT, IT consulting, IT solutions. And then after I have this big list, I can plug these in as additional keywords to broaden my search out and make the most robust list possible, and then do a lot of guessing and checking to get it narrowed down. So building a perfect list, it's a game of guessing and checking, plugging in sample companies, and then playing around with the keywords till you have it nailed. And then once you do, then you can plug it into the people search, grab the decision makers, and export them. So those are the main features I like to use on Apollo. Again, there's features here where you can use it like a Calendly, set meetings through their platform. You can have the conversations, run deals. But these are probably the main ways that I would recommend you leverage Apollo. And then once you have these leads, I'll show you an example of what it looks like when you have them exported, and then how you can integrate that with other tools. Okay, so what I went ahead and did is I exported the Apollo list into a Google Sheet. So this is the type of data that Apollo brings you. Now, I also filtered out a bunch of other columns that, again, Apollo includes, but I don't really like including that data because it just clutters up the sheet and makes it really hard to use. But you can see here, first name, last name, title, company name, email. This is all included. The employee size, the industry, their LinkedIn, their website, their company LinkedIn, and then the location of the person or of the company account. So you can then take this data, upload this into a sequencer or any other platform and take it from here. They also include stuff that I don't have included in this export that you can configure here. Whenever you press export, you can press this export CSV settings and show all the different things. I'll actually just pull it up for the sake of this video to show you all the different things that are included. You can see you can get their company name, their email status, their seniority, their corporate phone, their work direct phone, their home phone, their mobile phone. Again, if you pay for it, the mobile phone is a separate charge. They don't include that as part of like their base plan. So if you want to get their direct dial, you can do that separately. You can get their technologies, a million other different things. Again, if I had this all in a sheet, it would be mega cluttered. But that's one thing you can do. You can pull it out from Apollo, upload it to a sheet, and then you can upload this to a sequencer. And then what I like to do outside of Apollo, this is a tool called Clay. If you want to check out, I have a whole separate video talking about Clay. This is like Google Sheets on steroids. You can then run a multi-step enrichment sequence natively through here. So for example, if I wanted to use AI to summarize what their company does, I can write a little prompt here like visit/website and tell me if they are a managed IT company. If they are, output true. If they aren't, output false. And so I can run this simple Clay workflow. Again, this is for the sake of this video. That we can verify if the emails that Apollo is giving us are actually accurate. And then we can, again, massage all this data if we want to make it work well for a specific cold email campaign. So you can run these AI workflows through a tool called Clay. I know this is an Apollo video, but this is what I do on the back end to actually make this successful for campaigns. If I want to add any other additional data from other data platforms, I can then layer this in, and that's how I process this data as well. Like I said, you can also throw this data into other platforms like Million Verifier or Listment, listment.io. So this is a platform you can use to then upload the leads, grab the valid ones, and use those for email campaigns. Or like I said, you can then run these through Clay to get all kinds of other data if you want to make this list ready to go for your outreach sequences. And you can see here, based on the little AI test I did here, it looks like a majority of these companies actually fit the status that we're looking for. Then these are good to go, and then we can run these in campaigns. All right, so that wraps up this video. If you want to check out Apollo, you can use the link in the description below to sign up. And if you want to work with a company to help manage your outbound sales completely end to end, run campaigns for you, scrape the data, run the strategy, and do everything basically that I showed you in this video, plus a lot more to help you set appointments and grow your business, you can check out our website, anivomarketing.com. You can apply to work with us. We can have a conversation and see if we can help you out. If you also want to learn more about cold email and lead generation, check out all the other videos on this channel. Appreciate you a ton, and have a great day. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can scrape thousands or even tens of thousands of leads, use AI to hyper-personalize them at scale, and leverage them in cold email campaigns using clay.com. For context, Clay is a tool that has completely changed how I've sent cold emails over the last few months. It allows me to use AI to make the emails sound like they were manually written. But if you use it in conjunction with a tool like SmartLead, you can send thousands or even tens of thousands of emails that convert extraordinarily well. If you don't believe me, here's just a couple examples. This customer here who we launched a campaign using Clay with, we were able to get 14 interested leads and a closed deal within 3 days of the campaigns going live, which is absolutely crazy. This customer here who we were able to book 5 meetings in 1 single day for, and this other customer here who were able to get a $10 billion publicly traded company in with their company. Also, if you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Lucero. I send a few 100,000 emails a month for a bunch of different companies like these. And if you stick around to the end, I'll show you some example Clay tables that I've built for a customer so that you can take a look at them, model them in your campaigns, and use them to send hyper-personalized campaigns that get you tons of results. So enough about me, let's dive straight in. This is clay.com. You can find it at clay.com. It's basically a tool that allows you to plug a bunch of different data providers into one spreadsheet type view. It's kind of like Google Spreadsheets on steroids, so you can just add a bunch of stuff to it. So better than me just explaining it, I'll show you at a high level what it looks like. So what you're going to first do, Clay has what's called tables and enrichments. A table is basically your canvas where you're going to be building the workflows, and enrichments are what you add on top of it so that you can actually make it have all the different data things you want, the AI stuff, and all the other things. So let's just dive in and let's build a table. So first off, let's just say for this case, I want to build a list of e-commerce companies like Gymshark. So whenever you're building a table, you can either come with a list that you already have. So you can see you can import records from Salesforce, HubSpot. If you have a CRM and you already have a bunch of people you already like, you can just plug it in from there. You can use Apify, Apollo, any of these other big data platforms if you want to just scrape leads that way. But in this case, let's assume that we don't have any leads that we already want to reach out to. We want to scrape them through Clay too. So we're going to start here with Ocean. Ocean is basically a lookalike tool where you can scrape companies that are similar to whatever company you're looking at. You can see here, you can either plug in your own account, which I'll show you how you can do and save a bunch of money on Clay, or you can use Clay's own account. So just to give a super high level on pricing too, because I figure that's relevant before we dive in. Clay basically bills on what's called credit. So if you check out their pricing page, whenever you sign up to Clay, I prefer paying monthly. You can see there's the $0 month plan, $149, $349, $800. What you're basically getting when you go up to these higher plans is just more credits, and credits are what the Clay bills on based off of how much you're using it. So if we want to scrape a lead, each lead that we're scraping costs 1 credit. And so you can check out the pricing on Clay's site here. If you sign up using the link in the description below for a paid plan, you get 3,000 free credits. So if you want to check it out, you can use my link. But whenever you're setting up an account, like I said, you're going to be using credits. And if you want to use Clay's managed accounts, they're going to bill you Clay credits. But what's also really, really neat about Clay is that you can bring your own data tools into their platform so that you can bill via whatever API you're paying, which is what is usually more cost effective. So if you want to scrape tons and tons of leads, and let's say I had an Ocean.io account, I would just plug in my own Ocean API key. That way, Ocean is obviously going to give me a better price than Clay, who's going to be marking it up with their Clay credits. But if you want convenience, or if you just want one central data platform, then I would just use the credits, and it's really convenient to use the credits. In a lot of my workflows, I end up just paying out of pocket with my own data tools. But anyways, we're going to use the Clay managed Ocean account here. And like I said, let's say I want to find e-commerce companies like Gymshark. So I'm going to type gymshark.com. You can include, like I said, Ocean is a lookalike tool, so you can just plug in companies that you want to be similar to, and it'll pop up a bunch of the other ones. So you can put domains to exclude, states, countries, and let's say we only want e-commerce companies that are like gymshark.com. So we're going to plug all this stuff in. Like I said, you can add all the different filters and stuff, but I'm just going to be doing a demo table to keep this relatively simple. So I'm going to scrape 50 results. I'm going to have e-commerce companies that are going to be similar to Gymshark. And so we're going to press continue. You can either add this to an existing table or a new blank table. Let's just do it from a new blank table. And you can see it's going to start populating things in here. And like I said, once you see the stuff pop up, it looks a lot like a Google Sheet. But the cool thing here is that you can add a bunch of stuff on top of it. So we went ahead, we scraped all these companies. Now you might be thinking, where are these actual companies? You can see over here on the left. So this is what an enrichment looks like. An enrichment, it's basically just like a run of a specific tool that you're using inside of Clay. And so you can see we found a company. This is the company. If you click in, you can click in all these little tabs to see all the data that's scraped. So you can see here's the name of the company, the domain, the emails. So it shows like corporate support, all the different emails that it was able to scrape, the root URL, and all this other stuff. So we went ahead and we just scraped a bunch of accounts that are similar to Gymshark. So what we're going to do is we want to actually see this data, because it's not very nice seeing the data kind of mashed into the cell. We want to actually see it in its own cell. So what we're going to do is we're going to click in, and then we're going to make the domain another column. So you can see the domain here. We're going to press add as column, and we're going to press create column. And so now all the data on the left-hand side is going to populate on the right here. So now we can see all these 50 different domains or 50 different companies that we pulled in here. And now we can start doing some more magic on top of this. Now, what I like doing too is not just grabbing the bare minimum data, but also grabbing any other data we might possibly need. So you can see the company name here. You can see the countries, the keywords. If there's any other stuff we want to pull in here, now's the time to do it, because we might need it down the road when we build out a more complex workflow. So I'm also going to add the company name here. So I'm going to rename this company name, because this was grabbed through this Ocean search. I'm also going to grab the emails. Might be useful if we want to scrape those or use those. But if we're reaching out to people, we don't really want to reach out to the emails Ocean is giving us, because they're just giving us generic emails. We can also grab their LinkedIn page. This can be really useful too if you want to grab stuff from their LinkedIn going down here. So we're going to type LinkedIn company page. We're going to create a column here. And then we can also grab any other data. If you want to grab their Instagram, let's say you're doing Instagram outreach and you're putting this in your CRM. This is really awesome, because now you just have it right here. And if you want to reach out to their page, you can do that. So you can see all the other stuff, web traffic. This could be really useful, and we could talk about how we could use this in a workflow. But you can see page views, here's visits. Let's just pull up page views here as well, because you never know. You could use that in your cold email campaign. You could say, hey, or your cold calling campaign, or really whatever. That's a great thing here, is it's not just limited to cold email. You can use this in all kinds of other things. Company size, I'm going to pull this in here as well. And let's just start here without overcomplicating it. So we just scraped a bunch of people with a couple clicks of a button through Clay. Now, the next question here is for a lot of you guys who are running cold email campaigns, you might be thinking, who should I be reaching out to here? Or where am I actually going to get the emails from? So now you can go over here, and there's a bunch of other ways you can do this. This is the enrichment feature I was talking about. So we did step one. We scraped a bunch of companies we want to reach out to. Now we need to find the decision makers and find their emails. And so this is where we can go into this add enrichment section and start to build on this workflow. So we can type, find people, and there's a bunch of different stuff here. So this is just a few examples of enrichments you can use, but you can find contacts at companies. So this is a Clay enrichment. We'll just save results in this table. So you can see here, if you input the company LinkedIn page and you add, the job title keyword. So I could plug in this LinkedIn company page that I scraped here and say, I want the founder of these companies, right? And it'll output in another column. Or you can use a tool like Apollo. You can see Apollo has a direct integration here. So find people. You can see find people at company by job title. So we can press this in here. I have an Apollo API key. And so if I want to say, I want to find the CEO of the people at these companies, and you can insert the company domains, you can do that as well. So we're going to just use that native Clay feature that we were just talking about here. Let's go over here, find people. at company. And then we're going to input this. We're going to actually save these results in a new table, and I'll show you why. The reason is if we find multiple people from the same company, it's not going to format very well, because let's say there's 2 people at this top company here, it would take up 2 cells, and we want to have a different table where you have different cells. It's just a thing to make it look pretty and make it actually usable. So we're going to add enrichment. We're going to find people at company, and we're going to save results in a new table. So we're going to make a new table. And then you can see here, these, it already linked up and said, hey, these are the company pages we want to go after. View, default view. So let's say, like I said, we want to reach out to the owners, the VP level people, the C-suite level people, and the director level people that manage, or actually let's scrap director level people. Let's just keep it simple. The owners, the VPs, and the C-suites at these companies. You can have specific job titles that you want: CEO, owner, founder. If you're reaching out to marketing titles, you can do CMO, you can do all kinds of stuff there. But again, we're just going to keep this super simple. And then you can filter by location. So I want to make sure that the people we're reaching out to, let's say, are in the United States. We can include that here. We can exclude regions. We can add all kinds of different stuff here. You got education. You can say, hey, I only want people from these companies or these schools that they went to, certifications, profile. You can see there's all kinds of stuff here. Minimum number of connections. We want to reach out to people that are doing something where they have enough connections. I don't know what the use case could be there. Maybe it's just you want to reach out to people that have engagement on LinkedIn and people who have a certain amount of connections. You can do all kinds of stuff here. And like I said, a lot of the magic in these clay tables comes from specifically determining what your campaign could look like and then building around that. So this connections or number of followers thing, probably not going to be relevant in this example table that we're going to make. But let's say you were a company and you do social media marketing, or you do ghostwriting or copywriting or whatever it is, and you want to reach out to people that have a certain amount of followers. This is where you can do that. You can say, hey, I noticed you had a bunch of followers. Really, really useful stuff here. But again, in the name of simplicity, we're just going to do CEOs, owners, founders, VPs, and people in the United States at the companies here. And so you can see it looks like it only pulled 9 people in here. Let's bump out the countries. Let's try this again. And so you can play around with all this other stuff. You can see there's 19 people here. Normally, I would like to do a little bit more people, but again, this is just a demo. And so we'll just run through the 19 or so people here. We're going to import this into a new table, and then you can also enrich directly through here. So let's say all we did here is we grabbed the people. Let's say we want to grab their emails. We can do that here. So we're going to continue for free, and I'm going to show you how I leverage enrichments using my own API keys to save some money. So we're going to continue here for free, and then it's going to pull up another table. So again, super small demo example. If I want to get this super right, I would play around with this a little bit more, but this is the table we have here. So step 1, we got a bunch of people we want to reach out to. Step 2, we found the people that actually we want to reach out to, the decision makers. And the next step we're going to do here is we're going to want to grab their emails. So how are we going to do this? Again, using another enrichment through Clay, we're going to go here and add work email. So we can find their work email, and you can pick specific providers, which is what I'm going to do here, or you can use a waterfall. What a waterfall is inside of Clay is basically where it passes through a bunch of different data sources to get, the maximum amount of data. So instead of just saying, hey, I want to check this one data source to see if this guy has this email here, we can pass it through a bunch of different data sources so that it can squeeze the most amount of emails out of this. So what I prefer to do, you can use this waterfall here. You can see this tool, Find Email. I really like Find Email. What you can do here is actually, instead of using your own Clay key where they charge 2 credits per run, you can add your own key. So I actually have a Find Email account. Find Email charges a cheaper rate if you buy it directly through them instead of Clay. And so what you can do here is whenever Clay prompts you, you can manage accounts, and then you can add your own account and you can add your own API key. Now you can only do this, I believe, on the $149 or $349 plan. You actually have to, have a paid plan. They don't want you just using the platform for free, obviously. But if you just do this, you can squeeze a lot more than 2,000 credits per month if you have one of these paid plans. So you can plug in your own email here or your own API key in here, select your account, and then put your setup input. So whenever you're using an enrichment, if we're saying, hey, find this guy's email, it's going to ask for specific details to actually get their email, like their full name and their company name here. And you can see we already have a full name and company domain column, so we can just plug this directly in. If you don't have that data, that's where you can run other enrichments to get that data. So we're going to do this real quick here. We're going to save changes. And you can see, so this waterfall, we're going to pass it through a bunch of different data providers. You can add or remove stuff here. Let's just say for the sake of this, I want to just do Find Email and Lead Magic. And the reason why is because I have API keys for both of these platforms. So we're going to save. We're going to run this for all 19 rows here. Just doing this small sample here. We're going to find their work email. Now it's going to go through Find Email. You can see Find Email actually did a great job and found about 80% of them here. And for the ones that it wasn't able to find it, then it's going to go over Lead Magic, and Lead Magic will try and find them as well. So you can see it's passing through here. And these are the work emails of people's contacts that we can directly reach out to. So here's how you scrape leads. Here's how you do that. Now, here's where the fun begins, is where you can write your own personalized emails and start to go really, really in depth on how can we make these emails sound very human. So one of the things that we can do here is, in the case of an e-commerce company, we can pull up what their company mission is. We can pull up what their products are. We can pull up all kinds of other data inside here to make the email sound more personal. So let's say we want to go and find products on all these people's websites so we can call that out in their email. So what are we going to do here? We're going to go over add enrichment, and then there's a Google shopping filter here. So you can see you can actually pass in websites through Clay. It'll pass it through Google Shopping, and it'll see what items they have listed there, and then we can use that inside of our email. So we're going to go here to Google Shopping. We're going to put setup input so you can see the query, what we're going to be searching for. We're going to be adding in their website, I believe. So query insert column. There should be a website column. If you want to add anything inside Clay here, like you want to reference another column, you just put this slash over here. So we're going to go over this company domain. We're going to search for this, and then we're going to localize, language to localize stuff. I don't think this matters too much. We're just going to add this to fields, and we're going to see this run. So we're going to save. We're going to run for all 19 rows. Like I said, since I'm doing a demo here, I just run all the rows at once. If you're doing this on like a giant sheet where you have like thousands or tens of thousands of people, I would recommend just running it for 10 rows, seeing if you like the outputs, and then running it for the rest. That way you don't burn through all your credits. So we're going to go here, run 19 rows, and we're going to see if Google Shopping can find a product that these people have. So these are all e-commerce companies, so they should, almost all of them have something on Google Shopping. And as you can see, it looks like they all do. So if we click in here, you can see all the shopping results, all the stuff that they have. Title, Silverback Gym. Let's see, they have a gym wear t-shirt. They have a hoodie. So you can see this is all the different products that they have. Let's pull this up here. They have large athletic fit long sleeve soft shirt. It looks like some of this is pulled from Poshmark. Might not be directly through them, but you can see the source here, Barbell Apparel. This looks like the company, Barbell Apparel. Awesome. So what we can do here now is then plug some of their product names. So let's pull in the first one, because this is probably going to be the most relevant one, and pull in the pricing as a column. Price of product 1, and then we're going to pull that in here, and then let's see, create column, and then we will pull the name of the good. So we're going to do add as column, name of product 1, create column, and then we'll also pull in another product. Let's see, we'll put it here, price, add as column, price of product 2, and then add as column, name of product 2. So now we have a bunch of different stuff. Again, this is where we can write super personalized emails, is now we're pulling in the name of their products. So if you, let's say, are wanting to reach out to these companies, you can pull up one of their product names. Now, a lot of these people, again, are from the same companies. If I wanted to do this list more in depth, I would have probably pulled more than 19 people in and scraped this in a lot more depth, or pulled it from a different data source. But again, in the sake of making this a simple demo, we're just going to take the stuff that we have here. You can see there's a lot of overlap because a lot of these companies look like they're the same. It's just multiple people from the same company. But now we have the name of some of their products, and then we also have price of their products. So if we want to call this out in their email, what we can do here is, the first thing is, let's say we want to, in the email, have a merge field where we say, hey, I noticed you sell insert name of product. The thing about this, the issue you can see here, is this doesn't sound very human. So if we're reaching out to, let's say, Barbell Apparel here, and we want to say, hey, I noticed that you guys sell Barbell Apparel straight athletic fit jeans, that doesn't really sound like a human's reaching out. So if we want to make this sound more human, this is where we can start to leverage AI. So we can go over here, add column, and one of the enrichments here you can see is use AI. So if we use AI here, what we can do is clean up the name of the product. So instead of saying, hey, I saw you sell Barbell Apparel large athletic fit jeans, we can just say, hey, I noticed you guys sell a pair of straight fit jeans, or I saw you sell athletic jeans, or something to that effect. You can come in here and use AI to actually say, hey, go look at this text here and make it sound human so that we can use it in a cold email campaign. So I'll show you an example of that. Let's say we're going to go here into use AI, and we're going to use it for manipulation of data. You can see Clay has this other feature, which I'll dive into after here, called Clayagent, where you can actually scrape data off the web. Super insane tool. But we're going to go over here. We're going to pick which model we want to use. So you can see Clay has a bunch of models. I've noticed that 3.5 Sonnet is very, very high quality. It costs a little bit more though, or you can use OpenAI. GPT-4o Mini, you can see it costs half a Clay credit here. If you actually leverage your own API key, you can run this for like a tenth of a penny. It's absolutely ridiculous how cheap some of the stuff is. But like I said, if you plug in your own API keys, this is going to be easier. If you want the convenience, like we are going to do in this video here, you can just use your own, or you can use Clay's key. So you can see I have my own key, and we're going to use Clay's key here. So we're going to see these company names, and our goal here, like I said, in this example is we want to take these company names and make it sound like we could use it in a cold email merge field. So I want you to clean up the name of a product that I will provide you. The goal is to make the product name sound human, so I can use it inside of a cold email in the sentence. I notice, and then we'll give a sentence. I notice you sell product type. I want you to clean up the name of a product that I'm going to provide you. The goal is to make it sound human, so I can use it inside of a cold email in the sentence. I notice you sell product type. Are you looking to sell more going into Black Friday? So I'm just giving it more context. Please keep the output short and human sounding, right? So we just fed it this prompt. We're going to test it first. One thing, if you're doing this at scale, there is no like, hey, you just plug it in and it instantly works. A lot of times you have to do guessing and checking, especially with AI, but we're going to just try this right away. Here is the product name. So we gave it the prompt. We said, hey, we want you to do this. Now we actually have to give it the product name that we're going to do here. And so we're going to scroll down and we're going to pull name of product one. So we're just going to do this for product one. We can run this right now and see how it works. Let's just run this for 10 rows, but I'll show you how you can actually improve this. Another really, really cool thing you can do inside of Clay here, prompt system configuration examples, right? You can train the model with examples. So let's say in this case, we want to say slim fit jeans or whatever it is, we can actually tell it that. So this product name doesn't look like it's super good. Again, this is why we pulled another product name. We can have it fallback thing. You can see here, athletic jeans, this looks good. Gym equipment, men's workout tanks, blah, blah, blah. It looks like a lot of this stuff looks really good, but the problem is here is you can see the output isn't defined. So this is where we can use examples where we can say, all right, let's actually train the model and tell it what we want it to output. So if we go over here and do examples, we can say, choose a row as an example. Let's use row one. Let's save this. So we're basically going to say, I'm going to tell you an example of what we want you to output. So in this case, we said the name of the product is straight athletic fit jeans. And I just want to say, I know you sell athletic jeans. We're training the model and saying, hey, here's an input, here's an output. And if you do this enough times, you can have it get really, really good output. So let's feed it that piece of data. And let's just do that one example. And you can see, so here's output one. You can see the outputs aren't bad. Athletic jeans, this looks good. It just added context to it, right? Because we didn't tell the AI, hey, only output the merge field or only output the variable. Here's the product name. And then I'll also add this then. Only output the name of the product, nothing else. Again, super simple example, save, run this for 10 rows. And then now we have, let's wait for it to load a couple seconds, athletic denim, athletic jeans, gym equipment, athletic tank tops, athletic jeans, fitness backpacks, because there's a backpack here. So you can see all these different products now have become a lot more human sounding. So now you can imagine in an email, we could say, hey, I saw you sell athletic denim. Just curious, are you looking to sell more of this going to Black Friday? Imagine how much better that's going to convert instead of saying, hey, are you looking to get more sales going to Black Friday? Sounds a lot more human, makes the emails convert a lot better. And then you can just, with a couple of press of a button, if you had 10,000 people here, all you have to do is just say, hey, force run this for all 10,000 people. As long as you have it in a way that looks good, then you can have all these columns run. And so you can see, again, it does a very, very good job if you prompt it correctly and if you give it enough data. So that's just one example, right? So we started off at the beginning of this video, totally blank table, totally no idea. We just said, hey, we want to target gym companies that are similar to Gymshark. Then we were able to find the people. Then we were able to grab the product results. And then we were able to output it all into one nice, neat column where we can grab the emails and actually plug it into our cold email scripts as if we were talking as a human. Now, there's other enrichments. I can make videos going through every individual each enrichment. I'll just go through some of the ones that I like using the most, just so you can have context on all the different stuff you can do inside Clay. And then I'm also going to show you an example of a Clay table that I built so that you can see like another real world example, because what I've noticed with Clay, it's a super powerful tool. The problem becomes is like you just don't even realize all the different things you can do inside Clay. So I would suggest if you're going to use this tool, go through, play around with it, because there's a million different things you can do, a lot of it with AI. But let's just check out here. You can check out someone's bio. Let's say you want to call out, hey, I noticed you've been in this industry for X amount of years. Education, you can grab their Facebook, their full name, their gender even. So if you want to say like, hey, I want to personalize based on gender for whatever reason in your emails, you can do that. LinkedIn profile, location, you can grab their mobile phone number. So in another example, and I have another video showing you how you can find people's emails and phone numbers using Clay, but again, I'll show you right now. If I want to go and cold call these people and have my cold call opener, hey, is this John? Hey, John, I saw you sell athletic denim. What we can do here is press add column, add enrichment, and then we can do phone number. So if we plug this in, mobile phone number, again, we can do a waterfall, we can save and then double check what it plugs in. You can see all it asks is for a LinkedIn profile. And so now if we do this, we can save and run and you can get people's phone numbers. So I'm not going to do this here. I don't want all these people's phone numbers. I think we'd probably have to blur that out. But anyways, that's all the data in one place and how you can do a lot of stuff in Clay. I'm going to show you a couple more examples. Twitter account, if you want to grab their Twitter account, personal email, profile picture. I haven't used this before, but if you want to grab their profile picture and use that, work experience, work email. If you want to grab other people in their companies, so let's say you had a list of people of, let's say, the CEOs, and you want to call out their marketing guy, you can go and add a column and you can run a search on people that work for their company. And there's a few other things. Let's say you want to make a full AI line. I think there's actually even an enrichment here where you can write a full email using Twain. Yeah, you can have it write sales emails. Again, I personally like to write my own emails, but you can even have it write a full email end to end. I'm just going to do this totally live. Search by fields, filter input fields. Let's see here if there's anything else. Prospect name. I'm just going to run this and see if we were to run this, do I need to do anything else on top to make this email sound good? You can even have it write the whole email. Now, like I said, again, personally, I think that AI isn't quite at the point where you can write the full value prop. And I didn't even fill this out. You can fill in the value prop of whatever you're sending is in here, but you can see, hi Pete, finding reliable solutions can be challenging. Oh, that's just because we didn't put in any prompt, but you can see it just put a super generic output here. But if you want to have AI write the full email end to end, you can do that as well. Again, like I said, personally, I like to do my own stuff because then I can call it the product and do all kinds of other things inside of the emails. And that gets quite costly too if you just do that. So that's some examples of how to use Clay. That's me building a table end to end, showing you how you can use AI. One other thing, like I said earlier, that I want to show you how to use is Clayagent, because this tool is extraordinarily powerful. The other use case for AI is having it scrape data off of a website. So let's say I wanted to manually research these websites, and let's say I want to grab their mission statement. There's no clear way that I can find these companies' mission statement. There's not like a mission statement enrichment, right? Maybe there is, but I want to go to their website and find their mission statement. So what I can do here, I can plug in Clayagent. Clayagent is just Clay and ChatGPT or another AI layered on top of it to be a web scraper. So let's say I want to grab the mission statement. I want you to go to website or /webs/domain. Right? This is what I have here, company domain. I want you to go to company domain and find the company's mission statement. And then you can also tell the AI where you'd find the mission statement. And the great thing about this AI web researcher is you can go to the websites and find data there. And if it doesn't find the data there, you can tell it to go on Google and find it somewhere else. So I want you to go to company name's website and find the company's mission statement. If you can't find it directly on their website, you can Google their name. Here's their company name. And then I can insert their company name somewhere here if I have it. Let's see. It's in one of these columns. This is what I do sometimes. I forget. Company name data. Company name. I missed it the first time. Some of you guys out there probably watching, what is Matt doing? This is real world of what it looks like actually building these tables. It takes a lot of time. So here's their company name. Let's recap this again. I want you to go to company domain and find the company's mission statement. If you can't find it directly on their website, you can Google their name. Here's their company's name. Be sure to check out their various social media pages and their About Us page because it's likely there. Please take your time with this task and only output the mission statement. All right, so I want you to go to the company domain, find the company's mission statement. If you can't find it directly on their website, you can Google their name. Be sure to check it out, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Define the outputs, run settings, all this other stuff. Let's just run it, okay? Save and run 10 rows. Use AI here. If we want to be more efficient with the clay credits, one of the things I'm doing here that is not efficient is I grabbed the people first. And so you can see some of these people, maybe 2 people work at the same company. The same company might have the same mission statement. If you want to be conservative with your credits, you should do it in the right order, because then if you just did it on the company level, then grab the people, then you wouldn't have to rerun it for multiple people here. But you can see it's going to load here for the next few minutes. I'm going to wait for it to load here. You can edit the column, check out all this other stuff. I think my face now looking back was probably blocking some of the other stuff. But anyways, you can see the mission statement here. So if we plug in, Sweaty Betty's mission statement is to empower all women through fitness and beyond. The Sweaty Betty Foundation, blah, blah, blah. You can see that's their mission statement. So again, really, really useful stuff. You can even have it source emails. You can say, hey, this is the company I'm searching for. Go on the web and scour to find their support email, or tell me who the CEO is, or go Google and return me back their Facebook page. There's so many endless outputs you can do with Clayagent. So to wrap this video up, I want to show you another example sample table that we built that I can show you where you can make an email sound super hyper personalized. So I'm going to zoom out. I'll show you this one example. So this is the workflow for this example table I built. This was actually for a prospect, someone who came to me and was like, hey, build me out an example table. I'm like, cool, let's do this. So what they do is they sell offshore staffing services, and they sell it into companies like HubSpot companies or HubSpot agencies. So to be clear, their target market is companies that sell HubSpot implementation as a service, which is a very narrow company set. So you might be thinking like, how do we even scrape that? Their next challenge is that they wanted different value propositions depending if they had onshore staff or offshore staff. So if they had onshore staff, they want to say, hey, I noticed you have staff onshore. Have you considered hiring offshore? Or if they had offshore staff, then they want to convince them that, hey, their offshore staff is really good because they hire in Eastern Europe or whatever, right? So you can see here, here's a example. So I went ahead, I just scraped from Apollo or it was either Apollo or LinkedIn Sales Navigator or wherever. I download this and just upload this directly into Clay. And so you can see I have the first name, last name, title, all their other stuff. Now, the first problem that we have here is that in one of these major data sources, I think I was using Apollo. In this Apollo table, I just put in like marketing and advertising companies with the keyword HubSpot. Now, the problem becomes here is that Apollo and ZoomInfo and a lot of these other big data sources, they can't get that granular. Like you can put the keyword HubSpot, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are a HubSpot implementation agency or they sell HubSpot as a service, right? A very, very niche use case example here. So the first thing we actually did is we verified the emails, because if you can't reach out to them, there's not really much of a point in spending Clay credits on them. Then the next thing we did here is that we used Clayagent, the example I showed you here before, where you can scrape a company's website, and we prompted it and we said, hey, go to this company's website and tell me if they are actually a HubSpot consulting firm. If they're not a HubSpot consulting firm, do not output true. If they are a HubSpot consulting firm, output true. This way, we're reaching out to the super, super hyper personalized segment of people. So you can see here, about 30% of the data here was false. And zooming out, right, this is just a cold email conversation now. A lot of the reason why people fail with cold outreach and doing a lot of these outbound campaigns is because they scrape these giant lists. They don't make it accurate. They don't make it personalized. They don't make it actually seem like a human reached out to them. And then you get to the end point where you're sending this very generic email to this person who has no idea what you're even selling. And then it's a very generic email to a person that might not even be a good fit. Then people start reporting as spam. Then your emails go to spam, and they have all kinds of downstream effect problems. But separate side note. But anyways, back to this flow. We got the original list of what I thought HubSpot companies were. We validated them. We passed it through Clayagent, and then we found contacts at companies. So like I said earlier, we want to make custom value propositions depending if they had people on their team who were offshore or not. So what we did here is we ran this enrichment where we said, hey, output people if they are based outside the US. And so you can see I ran that output, and then I used AI to actually filter this down to people and their location. So now we can call it their location too, right? Ran this through, did a bunch of data processing with it, but here's the final line that really matters most, right? So what I then did is said, hey, if they have someone who's offshore and they're not based in Eastern Europe, because they do hiring in Eastern Europe, I want you to say one thing. If they don't have any offshore staff, say another thing. And if they do have offshore staff based in Eastern Europe, I want you to say a third thing. So I'll give you a couple examples. So you can say, in this first example, they had no one based offshore. So we said, hi, first name, I noticed on your LinkedIn that you have no team members based outside of the US. Are you looking to hire outside the US? Different value prop, right? Second example, hey, I noticed that this guy on your team is based inside of Spain. Have you considered hiring in Eastern Europe? Another example. So this is a case where someone is, they haven't hired in Eastern Europe yet, but they're familiar with offshoring because they have someone offshore already, right? Different value proposition. And then in the sentences below it, whenever we're manually writing like the rest of the email, we can call it and say, hey, here's the pros of hiring from Eastern Europe instead of all these other locations, right? Different value proposition, different sales angle. And then this third example, this person has hired in Eastern Europe. Hey, I noticed that this guy on your team is based in Serbia. Have you considered hiring more talent in Eastern Europe? So now the selling angle that you're coming from is not, angle one is like, hey, here's this new idea you haven't heard of. Angle two is like, hey, I saw you're doing this, but here's a better way you could be doing it. And then the third angle here is, hey, I saw you're already doing this thing. Here's how we can improve and iterate upon this. So a lot of stuff, like I said, if you just do this very well and you're really diligent and you think through how you can write these campaigns, you can make absolutely killer campaigns that get a ton of results and almost emulate if someone was manually writing these emails. This is like the whole point and the amazing part about Clay and AI is you can effectively, if you do this right, you can do the job of like a whole sales team just with some AI enrichments and some other stuff. Again, there's other sales functions. It's not just like I can reduce sales down into email. But the point is that you can do 5 people's outputs as one single person if you know what you're doing properly. So like I said, that wraps up this video. If you want to check out Clay, like I said, there's a link down in the description below. If you sign up and you get a paid plan using that link, you get 3,000 free credits. So you get a bunch of extra credits on top. Also, if you like this stuff and you want more of it, please let me know because I can make all kinds of videos on Clay, the different Clay tables we're building. And then last thing, if you're watching this video and you want help with this type of stuff, you can check out one of the links in the description below. Anivo Marketing, it's my company. If you want to work with me, you can fill out the form, see if you're a fit, and you can apply and see if you want to work with me, coaching or for outsource managed stuff, which is a majority of the stuff we do. We send emails for our customers to help them book sales calls. So that's basically everything. Really appreciate you watching this video. Have a killer week and take care. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can scrape anyone's phone number or business email so you can reach out to them and sell them your products or services, or just say what's up. And for context, if you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Lucero. I've scraped over 1 million B2B contacts and reached out to them via email. So I know a thing or two about data scraping. So hopefully by the end of this video, I can share some of that knowledge with you. So without further ado, let's dive straight in. Diving in and showing you how you can find anyone's work email or mobile phone number. Super simple, super easily. The tool that we're going to use to get this done is called clay.com. And what Clay basically is it's like Google Sheets on steroids. It allows you to plug in basically every other data provider into one sheet like table platform. I'll show you what I mean here in a second, so that you can use all the different data sources at once, or 5 or 10 of them at a time, instead of manually going through one by one. And the reason why you want to do this is because if you just take your data, let's say you have 10 contacts you want to reach out to and you don't have their emails and you don't have their phone numbers, and you plug them into one data tool, that one data tool might only have 5 out of the 10 people's emails or 5 out of the 10 people's phone numbers. And so now you have 5 people with emails, 5 people without emails, and you are kind of just left to throw away the 5 people that don't have emails. And so that really sucks. Or what you can do is get another subscription for another data tool and just rinse and repeat until hopefully you have all 10 of those people's emails before you give up. So that's one way of doing it. The way that we can do it through Clay here is basically do all of that in one process without having to have 10 different subscriptions, and basically run it through a waterfall, which is taking it through one data platform, then another data platform, another, and only moving the next one on to the next step if they couldn't find the data. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So first, log into Clay. You can set up an account. I think they have a free trial on here, and then you can press create new and then create new table. And so if you don't have the prospects, so let's say you're like, hey Matt, I don't even have the people that I want to reach out to in the first place. Like you want to scrape new data. They have a bunch of scrapers here. So they have a Google Maps scraper. They have GitHub scrapers that you can import people from your CRM. You can scrape people from Sales Navigator. They have a bunch of different stuff here, but I'm going to assume that you already have people already because this isn't a video on data scraping. So you're going to go ahead and find the people that you want to scrape and then press blank table, people table, and then you can upload it there, or you can upload the people that you have from the CSV here. So I have a list of 10 people here that we're just going to use as an example and go ahead and grab their phone numbers and grab their emails so that we can reach out to them. So we have these 10 people here. I have their first name, their last name, their company name, their website, their LinkedIn profile, and we want to get their data. So we're going to first go over into the top right here and press add enrichment, and then we're going to type work email, and it's going to pop up with Clay's waterfall. So this is what I was referring to. It goes to data provider 1, grabs 5 emails that it can find and take the 5 people that it can't find and move it on to 2, and from 2, the 3 that it finds, it takes the other 2 and moves it on to the next stage. So it's basically just going data provider by data provider. And so we're going to press work email here, and then you can see this is how it works. It has 6 data providers preset in here. You can add more data providers if you want to get a better list or get more people. So we can add even more data providers. We can say, hey, we're just going to keep adding more in, or you can just leave to the default. You can set the order of the priority it wants to go in for these data providers. And you can see it asks for input data. So this is the data you need to feed it so that it can do what it wants to do. So let's say we're going to add Apollo in here, and you can see it gives these inputs. So company name, full name, personal email, or we can select that we want to do company domain, company name, and full name. So these are the inputs that's asking for. And so you can see we need the full name here. We don't have the full name here. So first we're going to make a column, and I'm just going to merge and make another column, call it first name. And so the way that you do this is press add column and then formula. And then you can ask AI inside of Clay to generate a formula so it adds them together. I know how to do in Google Sheets. You just do like a concatenate thing, and you could probably do it the same here in Clay. But let's say I just want make one column with slash first name and slash last name together to make a full name column, right? So I can prompt AI here. Hopefully it'll generate a formula here. The outputs look right. So I can press output is correct. And then you can see here, it just made a formula that just adds them together here. So now we have these 10 people's full names. We're going to go back here and go back to the enrichment section. We're going to type work email, and then I'm going to add another data provider in here. Let's add Apollo, and then let's add the company domain, company name, and full name. And the reason why I'm doing this is because your option is to either do this input or this input, and we don't have their personal emails to start. So we're going to use this. So you can see here, full name, company domain, company name, and then you can have it validate the emails too as it passes through. We're going to have that checked because we want the emails that we reach out to be validated through zero bounce, and then we can press save and run. And so now what it's going to do is add a bunch of different columns of basically calling all these different providers and saying, hey, find this person's info, find this person's info. If it doesn't have it, it goes on to the next person, find this person's info. And so you can see as it runs here, we already have a few hits. So out of this first column, this data provider here, Prospio, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 emails found. And this one's still queued. And so you can see for the ones that it didn't find, it's going on to the next provider, drop contact. Didn't find emails here. Now it's going to go on to the next provider. It's going to go through find email, Detagma, Hunter, and then all these other ones. And then you can see here in this last column, it shows their validated work email. So the people that it could find, it has their emails here. And so we're going to wait for this to load, and then I'll come back whenever this finished loading between all these different data providers. All right, so it just finished loading. And as I said here, we found 100% of these people's emails. So this isn't guaranteed or necessarily able to be done at scale because, you might just plug in random data here, or your data might not be formatted properly and no data provider might have it. But this is the best chance that you can get all the data. And in this case, we scraped 10 rows and we got 10 different emails from these 10 different people. So you can see exactly how it worked here. So first it went to Prospio, it found 6 or so emails. Then it went to drop contact, found nothing. It went to find email found another email here, went through 3 other data providers, and then it went to Apollo, and Apollo was able to find the last 3. So we could do this really efficiently instead of having to go and pay 7 different subscriptions, plug the data into 7 different tools. We have all their emails here in one clean place. And now we can go and export these and reach out to them over email or add them to your CRM or do whatever you want. So that's how we do it with the emails. Doing it with phone numbers, almost the exact same process. So we're going to go press add enrichment here. We're going to press phone number, and then you can see here mobile phone number, and similar thing. We're going to configure a new provider. So you can see here, it has the exact same setup. So a bunch of different providers here. It goes through all these different providers and tries to find their phone number, and the input data here is their LinkedIn profile. And so we can add another provider. I'm going to add Apollo in here. So I have an Apollo API key. And so I'm just going to plug it in, and you can see it has all this different data that we have to work with, and it's going to plug it through all these different providers to find their phone numbers. And so you can set the priorities. So you can see Detagma here uses 25 credits. Maybe we want to push this to the end because they charge more. Same with contact out. And maybe we want to push Apollo up to the front because I have an API key and I'm paying for it already for my own campaigns. So I'm going to push that up to the front. And then same thing, we can press save and run 10 rows, and then we're going to let this run, and the exact same situation is going to happen. It's going to grab their data from one data provider, move on to the next one that it couldn't find, move on to the next one it couldn't find, and keep going down and down and down the process here. So after a couple of seconds here, you can see this one loaded a lot faster, and I think that's because some of our Apollo data was already shared with the last column we just went through. But you can see here, we already have 9 out of the 10 different phone numbers of all these people, and you can see the last one was just found. So same situation, we had 10 people, we found all 10 of their emails and all 10 of their phone numbers. That's 100% hit rate, and that's really only possible if you pass it through a bunch of different data providers. Forager found another phone number here, then it went through Nimbler couldn't find any, Lead Magic found one, and then Contact Out found one, and now we have all 10 phone numbers. So super simple process. And then the best part about all this too is if you want to do this again, you watch this video, you spent 5 minutes, you set up this table. Now all if you want to do is find more people's emails and phone numbers, you can just add a new row and plug the data in, and all this stuff is already saved. You don't even have to press run. Once you add the data in, it'll run through all the stuff here at the end. And then if we want to make this clean, so what I'm going to go ahead here and do is I'm going to get rid of some of the columns. So I'm going to take off this find, like basically all these enrichment columns where it's showing what's happening. I'm going to get rid of all of these. And we're just going to keep the data that we want, which is like the mobile phone number and the email at the end of it. Just like that, we have a nice clean list: first name, last name, company name, domain, LinkedIn profile, their full name, because we needed that, and then their validated work email and their validated mobile phone number. I'm not sure how it validates it through these platforms. So that's basically all you have to do. So that wraps up this video. And then yeah, if you want to do this, all you have to do is set up one quick clay table. So now comes the part that makes or breaks if people are going to respond, because you can have the best lists in the world and you're going to get 0 responses if your emails read like an infomercial. Which brings us to section number 3, scripting. And here's the truth about cold email copy, is that most people way overthink it. I'm going to show you a simple framework that has booked literally thousands of meetings, and so you can just copy it from me. All right, so there's 3 things we're going to cover about script writing. First is the one-to-one principle. 2 is the 4-part framework of actually writing the emails, and 3 is follow-ups and testing. So how many follow-ups and how to continue to test your emails to make sure it performs well. Well, first we're going to talk about the one-to-one principle, which is why most cold email copywriting fails, is because they write their cold emails as if they're ad scripts or infomercials, not like they're talking to a coworker. So cold email is a one-to-one channel. You are talking directly to a human being. You're watching this YouTube video right now, you understand that I'm talking a general way because I know that thousands of people are watching this video, or maybe I'm not that famous. Maybe it's a couple hundred, maybe it's tens of thousands, who knows? But I am talking in a way that I acknowledge that there's a lot of people watching this video. Now you, the viewer, also acknowledge that a bunch of other people are watching this video, and so I'm talking in a generalized way. However, with cold email, you are sending it to a lot of people, but other people don't know that you're sending it to them. And so you want to talk to a way that is direct and one-to-one. What a lot of people talk is as if they're talking one-to-many ways. So there's, you thinking you're all happy and you're talking to all these people, and all the people here are angry because they think they can tell that you're talking to a bunch of other people, but you're pretending like you're talking to one person. So what you want to do is talk as if you're having a direct line of communication, and that should hopefully make them a lot happier, and because cold email is a one-to-one channel. So the way that you write, it should be short, it should be direct. And if you're looking for a general framework of like a tone, it should be as if you were walking up to a person in real life. So whenever I am talking in a one-to-one way, compared to other one-to-one interactions, think about if you're at an event and you're walking up to someone, you're trying to introduce yourself, or if you're doing door-to-door sales where you're talking in a one-to-one way, you do not want to write it as if it is ad copy. You do not want to talk in general ways. You want to be using keywords like you a lot. Do you have this problem? I notice you have this problem. We can help you solve this pain point that's specific to you, or calling out something personal like, hi, John, I noticed you have this problem, blah, 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 blah. As an example, here's an email that is landing in my spam folder, and it's probably landing in my spam folder for one of many reasons. Either their infrastructure isn't set up or it was set up properly, and so many people reported this email as spam. And no shade to this person. Hopefully all this stuff is blurred out, so there's no shade to it. But you can see this email. Hello, Matthew. Cold email deliverability is plummeting. Filters are destroying open rates. Cold calls, it's time sync that won't scale. This email that I'm being reading does not even address me, the person receiving this email, at all. This sounds like an ad. They're talking in generalities. They're not talking about me. And then now they're talking about their product, which hopefully blur out the product. We don't want to, say negative things about this product. But now they're talking about their LinkedIn outreach. It consistently gets replies. Imagine doing this. Again, this sounds like an infomercial. Imagine 20 to 30 personalized DMs. They did not mention anything about me. They did not mention anything about my problems. And they're talking in a very general tone that makes me instantly read this email and think, yeah, obviously this is spam because it was not sent or meant directly for me to read it. On the other hand, if someone talks in a direct tone, it should feel like this person just reached out to me. Now, a lot of people know that cold emails are sent at scale, but that doesn't mean that you can't do a little bit more effort and make it sound like it has a one-to-one feeling to it. Now, on the other hand, here's a few examples of cold emails I think have a little bit more direct style and a better tone. And I wrote these, by the way. If you want to grab these, you can pause your screen and look at it here. Or if you sign up to my newsletter, I think I just send these over to you. But anyways, like here's an example. Hi name, I recently came across your. So you're immediately talking about something specific on their website or some sort of detail about their business or website. We've been helping other people just like you achieve result, interested in learning more. So the thing is that this immediately starts adding some sort of context about their business. Now, again, you can take a look at all these and pause and, take notes here. But hey, I was just browsing community and noticed you were also inside. We're talking about them. And as a general rule of thumb, you should be talking about you or be saying the words you more than the words I and we and whatnot. So you should be talking about them more than using words like I and we. Talk about them, talk in a one-to-one way, and talk about them more than you're talking about yourself. Now, jumping into this, let's talk about the way to actually write cold emails, because I think there's 4 parts in my eyes that pretty much every part of an email should have. The first part is personalization. More specifically, why are you reaching out, right? You can see this in the template here. Hey name, I was just browsing community and noticed you're inside. So this is an example if you're scraping people that are in the same community in here. But notice the first thing we're doing in our email is we're saying something that's personalized and we're talking about why we're reaching out. Hey, I'm reaching out because I noticed we're in the same community, and you're bridging that gap of commonality. So start off your emails ideally with something about them, talk about you more than yourself, and talk about why you're reaching out in hopefully a personalized way. Super easy way to break the ice, super easy way to immediately catch someone's attention. The next thing you should do is talk about your value prop. In simple terms, what do you do? What do you do? So the next thing after you talk about why you're reaching out is what are you selling me or how can you help? A lot of people will give, 3 lines or 2 lines talking about or setting the stage or doing whatever. No, just go straight into what you're selling or how you can provide value. The shorter your emails are, the more likely they are to get read. The longer you write your emails, the more likely someone's going to tune out. So immediately after you talk about why you're reaching out, just tell them what you do so they can figure out if it's a good fit for them or not. And you can give examples here. Now, the next thing that you for sure need to have is a call to action. So after you tell them why you're reaching out, you tell them what you do, you want to give them a clear next step. So an example of a clear next step is asking for a call. It's sending them more information. Anything of the above, you can send them something free. I'm a big fan of sending something that's either free or saying something like, can I send you more info, which is easy to say yes to. The last thing to do here is to objection handle. Objection handle. So now that you've written your whole email, you talked about why you're reaching out, you talked about what you do, you gave them next steps, you're going to want to objection handle your email, which is basically pretend you're the recipient and ask yourself, what would I think if I got this email? So a good example is if I got this email, I wouldn't trust the sender. Well, why wouldn't I trust the sender? Well, because they have no proof. So then you're going to want to add layers of proof into your email. So really common example or really common objection a lot of people have to cold emails is, can you show me some proof? Can you tell me someone else that you've helped? And that's where you can weave in, again, examples here in this cold email template swipe file is, hey, we're helping other businesses like you get this result. And so you're kind of handling the objection around proof by giving examples around this. This whole email should not be more than a few sentences long. If you have 1 sentence for each one of these, this should be like a 4-sentence long email, which should be easily skimmable and easy to read. For subject lines, because I know a lot of people ask for that, if you want to know what to do for subject lines, just keep it something short and direct. The longer you make your subject line, the more likely they're going to look at it and think it's a sales email. The example I give is that if I get a piece of mail and it has nothing on it, I'm probably going to open it. And so if you send a short subject line that just says like first name question mark or quick question or something like that, they're very likely going to open it. The longer you make your subject line, the more likely it's going to look like a sales email. And length isn't the most important thing. It's just you don't want it to make it seem like a sales email. The example I give is if you live in the US, I'm sure you get a bunch of credit card offers that say like win 10,000 free bonus points. I take that mail and I throw it in the trash because I know it's trying to sell me something. But if I got a blank piece of mail, now I'm more intrigued. Now I'm going to open it. And the point of the subject line is just to sell you opening the email. One of the best performing subject lines, or pretty much the best performing subject lines that we've seen, are stuff that is short and stuff that is vague. And honestly, we've seen great performance across basically every subject line that contains this. And if you want to be really cheeky, you can make it sound like a coworker sent it. So as an example, if you're reaching out to, an IT company, you could say IT ticket ? And they probably think that there's some sort of ticket from one of their coworkers. But honestly, if you just keep these two principles, you're going to be set. Now, beyond this, after you've written your email, and again, you can reference the frameworks here, you're going to want to write the follow-up emails and test. So whenever you're writing your emails, you're going to want to have multiple emails get sent out. Now, there's a limit. Usually we notice the more emails you send, so if we have email 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're going to get worse results the more emails you send. Now, the reason why is because the more times you contact someone, the less % of a chance that person's even interested, because the most interested people are going to respond to the first one, then less people are going to respond to second, third, fourth. And so typically you see diminishing results. We usually don't send any more emails after email 4 unless we give it a few months, because it's very unlikely they're going to respond after the fact. And there's a higher chance they're going to report you as spam, which is going to hurt your email sender reputation. On average, we do about a 2 to 3 email long sequence. In some extreme cases, we might only do 1 email. And in other cases, we might do 4, depending on how big the market is and how well the campaign's performing. If the campaign's performing better, we'll send more. If the campaign's performing worse, we'll send less emails to more people. Each follow-up, just so you have a general framework on how to write these follow-ups, each one of these follow-ups should basically just be restating the initial email, but adding new or different context, or you can keep them really short and bump up the email. I'm a bigger fan of adding more context or just reframing the offer in slightly different ways with different value propositions to make sure that you're maximizing all the different ways you can frame your potential offer. Now, in addition to doing follow-ups, you're also going to want to test. So within any modern email sending tool, you can do A/B testing, which basically means that, if you have 1,000 leads, you can have it so 500 of them get email A and 500 of them get email B, which means that you can, run parallel tests on your email ones. And so as a best practice for doing this, whenever you do A/B split tests, you want to split test the most important parts of the email. I would not split test a subject line because subject lines tend to have small impacts on performance. I'd split test big things like your CTA, your value proposition, your personalization, or you can even split test audiences. So you can split test running it to, plumbers, you can split test running it to HVAC companies and see what type of results you get there. Whenever you're analyzing the test, you want to be analyzing based on meetings booked, not any other metrics. So you're going to get all kinds of other metrics like replies, interested replies, and all these other metrics. The only thing you want to focus on here when you're optimizing your campaigns is meetings booked and deals closed, because you can have campaigns that are more bait and switch that get a bunch of interested people, but they don't convert into deals or any pipeline or meetings booked. So make sure when you're running these A/B split tests, you are split testing things that actually matter instead of, vanity metrics like open rates or reply rates. So if you want more examples of the different types of scripts that you can run, if you check the link somewhere in the description, you can find this document and you can see all kinds of different examples of stuff on how to write scripts, or you can see all these templates. So if you're watching this video, you've probably seen a bunch of other people on YouTube telling you all these crazy cold email hacks where you twist the prospect's arm, you offer these crazy guarantees, and you make all these promises that don't turn out to be true. And as someone who's sent over 1 million cold emails and booked over a couple hundred calls just since the start of this year, I can tell you that those things just don't work. And so what I'm going to show you in this video is all the up-to-date call to actions that we're using currently in our agency, what we've seen generate the most results. And at the end of this video, I'll show you my favorite call to action, the one that I suggest most of you use if you're going to launch your own cold email campaign, and just show you how you can make the most killer call to action so you get the most results with the scripts that you're sending. So if you want to see that, stick around for this video, and excited to dive in. All right, so here are the new best CTAs for cold email. I'm going to dive in and just show you right away. So what is a CTA and what makes a CTA work? So a CTA is a call to action. It's basically the ending part of your email where you're giving clear next steps on what a prospect should be doing. And it typically looks something like this. So, hi name, we have a B2B sales platform that can make you more money, blah, 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 blah. Are you free to chat on Tuesday or Thursday to discuss this further? So it's the ending part of an email where you're giving clear next steps to get them to buy your product or service or get closer to buy your product or service. So the first thing I'm going to cover is the characteristics of the best CTAs. So the best CTAs have one or more of the following characteristics. Number one is it gets the person closer to the sale. So if your call to action is giving them clear next steps and getting them closer to a sale, that's a great call to action because you're getting them closer down the sales process. I'm hoping you're not just pitching, hey, buy my service straight off in the email, but the point is to get them closer to buying your product or service. So if you're giving them something for free, but it doesn't get them closer to buying your product or service, so you say, hey, check out my website, this isn't a great call to action because you're not getting them closer to buying your product or service. You're not furthering the sale. So this is an issue I see with a lot of people I consult with, is their call to action or the freebie or whatever they're giving out, it's not getting them closer to buying their product or service. You're just wasting everyone's time, and it needs to tie into what you're selling. So some people give away some sort of free value or asset or whatever, but if it doesn't tie in directly to your product or service, it's just going to be a waste of time for everyone. So making sure you have a clear opportunity to further the sale. The next thing, lowering your risk for your prospects. All the good call to actions I've seen have low risk for the prospect. So everyone's getting cold emails nowadays. They're getting pitched a million different things. But the biggest reason why people aren't getting closer or further down your sales pipeline is because there's a lot of risk for the prospect. So again, I hope you're not just asking people to buy your product straight off the email, but the main risk that most people have is either time or money. And since you're not selling the service directly over email, it's time. So if you're pitching someone, like I said in our first example, which I'll go into why that's not the best call to action, you're asking of a big time commitment up front. So you're saying, hey, I don't know you. Here's something that I want to pitch you. Do you have 30 minutes where I can just sell you on my service? Most people, they're busy. They don't have the time to commit to that. So if you're pitching that right off the front, a lot of risk, a lot of friction for the prospect, and it makes your interest go down significantly, which is why good call to actions are very low risk for your prospect. The next thing is making sure that your CTA does not sound ridiculous. I see this with a lot of CTAs. They have all these buzzwords, these jargon. It's not very clear on what you're even trying to get out of them. So make sure it just doesn't sound ridiculous. It's pretty straightforward. Don't sound like a scammer. Just be very direct with what you're giving as your call to action. And the last thing is making sure that your call to action is different than what everyone else is offering. This isn't a requirement. A lot of people are shoving a lot of call to actions down other people's throats. If your call to action is good and other people are using it, it can still work out. But the bonus point here is just making sure that you sound a little bit different, because if everyone has heard the same thing over and over and over again, the chance that they're going to say yes to you instead of someone else is going to be severely lowered. So making sure that you are selling something or saying something that's slightly different to what everyone else in the market is doing, it's going to make sure you get better results. So here are some old call to actions. These are call to actions I see in a lot of people's scripts, a lot of people who pay me for consulting that are using right now and aren't working as well as they should. So the first one is a direct pitch for someone's time. So this was the example I gave earlier. Hey, are you free on Tuesday or Thursday to talk about this? And the reason why this doesn't work very well is because you haven't even gotten to know the prospect and you're immediately asking for someone's time. So it's too big of an ask for a first interaction. You're basically saying, hey, do you have 30 minutes that you can just give to me where I can sell you my product or service? Which, to the right person, maybe that will work, but I can tell you that if you use one of the call to actions I talk about later in this video, you're going to see way more success. The reason why this doesn't work, people are cautious about giving up their time without seeing any sort of value first. But the little caveat I want to give here is that obviously if you're going to sell someone over the phone, you're eventually going to need to book them in for a call. I'm just saying this doesn't work very well on your first email where you're saying, hey, here's my product or service. Do you want to get on a call right away? I would say it's like the equivalent of, approaching some girl on the street and saying, hey, I thought you were super beautiful. Do you want to get a coffee on Tuesday or Wednesday, without getting to know her first or having a quick conversation? It's a similar thing. Like, you're super cold with the person, so you want to make sure you nurture them a little bit before getting them on the phone. And I'm going to show you some other ways to do that. The next call to action that I don't see work very well is audits that either sound like sales pitches or require a lot of back-end access. So most people, they understand that if you're sending them an email and you're saying, hey, I can give you a free SEO audit, they know that it's a sales pitch and it doesn't really have much value to it. And the second friction point with a lot of these audit-based call to actions is that it sounds like a sales pitch and it also requires something from their end. So if they need to give you access to their SEO, dashboard or whatever, they need to give you passwords to certain websites and all this different things that add friction to getting them closer to buying your product or service or getting on the phone with you. It makes, it just adds a bunch of red flags to the prospect before they even get on the phone with you. So I don't recommend audits unless you can make it not sound like a sales pitch, or you can make your audit have some sort of free value that's appealing. I don't really recommend audit call to actions that require a lot of backend access or that sound like a glorified sales call. The next thing that I see most people mess up on, they don't have a CTA at all. This is pretty straightforward. You have a missed opportunity without giving someone a clear action to take. People are unsure of what to do. And so you need to make sure you're actually giving clear next steps. This is really straightforward. And the last call to action I see a lot of you using, and this is almost somewhat controversial because a lot of people claim that this is the best call to action in the world, is a Loom audit or a 60-second Loom or something to that effect. So what this call to action is saying, hey, I might have noticed a few things are wrong with your website. Let me send you a quick video showing you all the things that you're doing wrong. And so this call to action does generate a lot of interest. However, it's a massive time commitment for you, the person who is doing the Loom audits. And so the numbers I've seen, so I've consulted a lot of people who use this call to action, roughly 5 to 10% of people who say yes to a video end up converting into a call. So that means that, 5 to 10% of people, that means you might be sending videos out to 10 people, 20 people, that you're sitting there recording yourself, taking 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes even of your own time, sending this out to this person, and then only 5 to 10% of them get on a call. So for a lot of the times, this call to action, the reason why I say it's not as effective, going back to the traits of a good call to action, is it doesn't really tie in with your product or service. So in the example I gave before, where you're saying, hey, I'll do a free website audit, just because someone says yes to seeing the things that are wrong on their website doesn't mean that they want to buy your product or service or get on the call with you. And yes, it does get a lot of interest, but it also gets a lot of time wasted on your end as the person who's sending out these emails, because I've seen these Looms might take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And if it takes you 20 of them to get you into a book call, that's 2 hours of your time that you're sending out to these people that are barely interested and not really even committed. So it gets a lot of interest, but there's high time commitment, and you likely see similar results with a direct CTA, or there's kind of better ways I can show you, with the best CTA that I recommend at the end of this video. You can get similar levels of results without having to spend 2 hours of people that aren't even willing to get on the phone with you. So here, I'm now going to cover the new CTAs. These are the ones that I recommend, the ones that are working now, and the ones that we see are not only booking calls, but are turning into closed deals, not just time wasters of people that want to get on calls and waste your time. So the first call to action that I'm going to talk about is the 5-minute chat or the phone call to action. So the example I have here is, can I give you a quick 5-minute call to discuss further? And the reason why this is so much more effective than the original example I gave, where you say, hey, are you free on Tuesday or Thursday, is because number one, the time commitment is way less. You're not asking them to sit down for a 30-minute long Zoom call, waste all their time, and not even know if they want to buy your product at the end of it. It's a very minimal time commitment. The next thing about a phone call is that it's a lot less scheduling commitment. So some people, or especially in some industries that are more blue collar, people don't have, Zoom calendars. They don't have time blocked off, and they don't want to have to deal with all this back and forth. So having a phone call is an option, basically like a triage call, where you can give someone a quick 5-minute call, see if they're a fit, tell them a little bit about your service, build a little bit of trust, and then get them in for like a 30 or 45-minute Zoom call. Works infinitely better because all you're asking for is 5 minutes. And also the pro of this too is that some people might even just want the 30-minute call right off the gate. So you can say, hey, do you want a 5-minute call? They say, yeah, let's have a quick Zoom call. And then you can schedule them in for a longer Zoom call or just a 5-minute Zoom call that might extend out into 30 minutes. So it gives them the option that if they want a low time commitment call, you can just give them a quick phone call for 5 minutes. Or if they're actually like, hey, this sounds great, let me take a 30-minute call, you can schedule it in on their calendar. So it gives them those two options to do ultimately what their favorite option is. So a fair amount of people prefer having the quick phone call. It allows you to be a little bit more on the fly, and it works especially well on industries that aren't on Zoom. So if you're reaching out to contractors, home service people, anything like that, they love that because they're not sitting on their computer all day taking Zoom calls. And so this is like the medium or channel that works especially well for them. So the next call to action is the soft CTA or the more info CTA. So what this looks like is, hey, would you be looking to get more info? And the reason why this works is it's super direct. It gives you kind of a triage email where you can send out an email and say, here's more information on my service before going into a direct call pitch. And it requires less commitment for them to immediately book in a call, and it gives them some wiggle room to have some back and forth. And it's super simple to implement. I'd recommend this if you're looking for just a super simple call to action that doesn't require any time commitment or anything on your end. This is a super simple one to implement because all you're asking is, hey, do you want more info? They say yes, you send them a little bit more info, and then you can push them into more of a direct call. The third call to action I'm going to cover before the last one here is the competence generating sales asset. So this is great for people who have design services, anything where you can kind of generate or show your competence in a portfolio. This works great. So the example I have here is, would you be open to seeing our portfolio? The reason why this works well is it allows you to demonstrate expertise and offers clear and practical value. So if you have a design service, a photography service, anything where you can kind of showcase past results and just say, hey, would you be open to seeing our portfolio? It kind of answers one of the questions that they already have, which is, hey, is this guy's photos or designs even good in the first place? And it also allows you to establish credibility and trust without a lot of investment on their end or on your end, because all you have to do is send over a portfolio. And it allows you to basically make this asset that sells them on your service without them even getting on the call. So if you make this easily consumable, readable, actionable, actually valuable, this will get a lot more interest. It'll pre-sell people on the call, answers one of the questions that most people have already, which is this guy even good at what he's claiming to do? So this is a great call to action for people who have design-based services. And so the last call to action here, one of my favorite call to actions and one of the most effective call to actions, is a freebie service or deliverable. So what this looks like is, I can make you a free video, image, email, basically just a free example of whatever you're selling. So for example, if you're selling video editing services, hey, I can make you a free video showcasing, how good our service is. Or if you're selling email marketing services, hey, I can write you a free email that you can plug into your email flow right away. And the reason why this works so well is because almost no one is willing to do it, and it's a no-brainer for your prospect. And not only is this a real value add, so like the Loom example where you're sending them over a Loom, a lot of those people don't even perceive that as a value add. They're like, oh, this guy, yeah, he's just pointing out some things that are wrong. But if you make someone a free video that they can just upload on their channel, or a free email that they can put into their email sequence, it works so much better. They're not only more likely to book a call, but this also ties into the sales process itself, because if you're giving them a free video and the video performs really well, they're more likely to purchase your service too. So it works great as a lead generation mechanism, as a sales mechanism. It's why grocery stores offer free samples of food to shoppers. So if you've been to Costco and you go there and they have a free sample of, I don't know, like a biscuit or something, and you say yes, and you give them the free biscuit, you are more likely to purchase that just because you had the free sample and you see, wow, this food tastes really good. So not only does it get them interested, gets them on the call, it massively increases the chance that they're going to actually purchase your product too. And so the way that you do this is you go out and you say, hey, I can make you a free video. They say yes, you get them on the call. If they're interested, you can make them the free video, and it just allows this more seamless sales process, not only on the lead generation and getting them on the phone side, but also whenever they're on the call and they can see your work, it helps with your close rate. And I've seen so many people see a ton of success with this. Yes, it takes more effort, kind of like the Loom strategy, but you don't need to make all these free services and do all these things unless someone gets on the call with you. So it's just kind of like a bait that you can get someone on the phone with, similar to how whenever you go to a grocery store and they give you a free sample of a product, it gets you interested. So not only you're interested in even hearing the product out, but also purchasing the product as well. So this is one of the best call to actions I'd recommend to most people. It cuts through the noise and it gets a ton of interest. So here's my final notes. Make sure that you change up your campaigns with these call to actions. Try these out. Let me know how these work. If they work great, drop something in the comments. I'd love to see you guys tell me a little bit about how this improved your campaigns if you're running them already. But the CTA alone won't matter if your emails are landing in spam, you're not sending out enough volume, and if you're not properly following up with your prospects. So if you want to see every step on how to run a full-scale cold email campaign, there should be a link somewhere in this video. It's either going to pop up here or in the top right corner. You can click on that link there. Check out the video where I talk about how you can create a full cold email campaign completely end to end. Appreciate your guys' time. Check out the description for some goodies. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments, and appreciate you. All right, in this video, we're going to be talking about how you can leverage AI to hyper-personalize thousands of cold emails at a time. That way you can send hyper-relevant messages out to your prospects and not have to manually write each and every one of them. For a little bit of context on who I am and why you can trust me, my name is Matt Lucero. I've sent over 5 million cold emails to date on behalf of our customers to help them book sales meetings. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you the exact framework we use to be able to personalize thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of emails at a time using AI. That way you can steal it from me, implement it in your business, and hopefully not have to manually write each and every email personalization one at a time. So without further ado, let's dive straight in. So diving straight in, we're going to be talking about how you can personalize your emails at scale. And in this video, I want to use a real world example. I don't want to just give you hypotheticals. I want to show you an actual campaign that I'm going to be running for myself, and we're going to personalize it here together. And you're going to see all the individual micro steps that actually go into this to be able to run a successful hyper personalized campaign. So in this framework here, first we're going to cover this, and then we're going to actually execute on these steps. So there's 4 main steps that I'm using here to be able to personalize your emails at scale. The first thing you're going to want to do is build the lead list and the campaign strategy for that matter. So we're going to want to figure out who we're targeting, what is the baseline criteria we're going to use, and how we're going to personalize it. Then we're going to determine exactly how we want to personalize the emails, because it's very important to have an idea of what you want to look like before you go into it, instead of just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and not really being sure exactly what you want. Then we're going to leverage AI to source or clean up data on our behalf, and then we're going to insert it in our emails. And so again, I'm going to use a real world example here. So we're going to dive in, and we're going to start with step 1, which is building the lead list. So I'm going to use an example, again, real world use case. So in most cases, whenever we send cold emails for our customers, and most of the cold email campaigns we're running are sales led, I want to use a real use case that we're using for ourselves right now, which is a recruiting use case. So my company, Nevo Marketing, we're hiring for a head of go-to-market. And so one of the strategies we're doing is we're going to be sending cold emails out to people to see if they know anyone who could be a good fit for this role. So we're just trying to get in front of a bunch of people who might know someone that could be interested in this role. So how we're going to do this, first, we're going to build the lead list. So in the example case here, the job that we're hiring for is head of go-to-market. And so the types of people that probably know people that are in market for this role are people that have very similar titles or people that are in adjacent titles. So right now, you're going to see here, this is Apollo. Apollo is a lead database. You can use a lot of different lead databases. Apollo is the primary one we use because it has a lot of features that make it easy to use, and the database is already scraped, and so we can just pull stuff in very seamlessly from here. So what I went ahead and did is I already built the list criteria because I didn't want this to be a whole list building video. Essentially, I just scrape people that have titles, again, that are similar to this role, keeping in mind that people who would be a good fit for this role would probably know other people that would also be a good fit for this role, if this makes sense. So we're scraping a bunch of people with similar job titles. We're scraping the US and Canada, and then we're scraping employee headcounts that, again, would be relevant. So we have about 21,000 people here. We have about 15,000 already scraped because we've run campaigns in the past for our customers. And so what I'm going to do here is leverage the data that I've already paid for, and I'm going to go ahead and scrape 5,000 or so of these people. Again, for the sake of this video, I might end up reaching out to a lot more people, but we're just going to scrape this. So I'm going to take these 5,000 people that we have already saved, and I'm going to go ahead and export these people through Apollo. So while this is exporting, we're going to let this load here. Again, just speed running through this. These criteria, I have another video entirely on Apollo and how you can build out job titles, location criteria, employees, all this stuff, and the kind of reasoning going into this. But just zooming all the way out, we're doing a recruiting campaign. We want to reach out to people who might know other potential applicants. And so the first thing we're doing is we're building this lead list. All right, amazing. So it's went ahead and loaded, and we're going to download this lead list. So now we have our lead list downloaded here. Step 1 complete. We have our lead list built that now we can then personalize. The next thing we're going to do here is determine how we want to personalize the emails and ideal output. So again, this goes back to strategy. We want to determine who we're reaching out to. And now we want to determine really what we want the personalized emails to ideally look like. Again, I went ahead and put together a sample script here. In other videos, I've talked about how to put together scripts with cold emails. So if you want to check those out, you can see other videos. But here's just an example script that we have here. Hi, first name, took a look at your profile on LinkedIn, saw your leading job function at Normalized Company. Just curious, you know anyone looking for a director level go-to-market job? For context, I run a cold email agency. Is there anyone you can introduce? That's really the email at a super high level. Now, I've already determined here how I want to personalize the email. So here's our kind of blank canvas email, and I've determined that things that might be relevant to personalize here is calling out what job function they're currently leading. So for example, if they are a head of business development, I might want to say, hey, I saw you're leading the business development department, or hey, I saw you're leading sales, or hey, I saw you're leading marketing or growth, or whatever it might might be, I want to include a little snippet here that calls that out. And then I also want to call out their company name. Again, this is just an example. In a lot of cases, I don't think it's really necessary to call out their company name, but I'm going to show you how you can clean this up with AI and again, personalize this in emails at scale. I already went ahead here, put together this email, and I already determined how we want to personalize the emails because I have the snippets in here already. If you are unsure on how you want to personalize your emails, what I would really sit and think through is if you could manually write an email, what parts would you personalize? Now, we're sitting here and thinking how we can do this at thousands of people at a time, but if I'm sitting here and in the case of, you know, a recruiting style email, I want to personalize each and every email, I'm going to sit and think for a second, what do I want to call out about this person? I probably want to call out what their experience is currently, which is why we're using the job function example here and their company name example. We could go a different direction and say, hey, I took a look at your profile on LinkedIn. I'm really impressed with your experience at XYZ Corp, or hey, I'm really impressed by the LinkedIn post that you're making. You can kind of take this any direction you want. It really just depends again on the campaign you're running. And in this case, this is a super simple personalization. Now we can also use AI to personalize the entire lines at a time. So if I want to, I could just have this be an entire snippet where it says, hey, saw you're doing whatever, right? You can let AI have kind of like a open playbook to put in whatever it wants or whatever relevant experience it finds. I'm more of a fan of tactically trying to find little snippets so that I know what AI should output. That way I have more control over the email, because if you kind of let AI go off the rails, it might write something that you don't want it to say. That way I'm being really tactical with what we're doing here by having these small snippets. Now you see here in the comment section, I already put what I ideally want AI to say. This is going to come in handy later whenever we're going to leverage AI and we're going to prompt it, because if you don't know what you want AI to output, it's not going to do a very good job. And so again, what you're going to want to do before you leverage AI, determine the script you're going to want to run. If you need help with that, you can check out my other videos. And then also determine what snippets you're going to use and what the ideal outputs are. Again, I'm using myself as an example here. If I want to reach out to myself, my company is called Inivo Marketing. But if you wanted to specify in a cold email, I probably would just say, hey, I saw you're leading business development at Inivo. I probably wouldn't put the marketing. For an example too, let's say we're reaching out to the IRS, which their official company name or the official department name is the Internal Revenue Service. You'd probably want to call them the IRS. So you probably want to have these examples in mind, what the outputs look like, again, before we go to AI and start to actually run these campaigns. And so again, step one, we built the lead list. Step two, I already have an idea of the campaign I want to run, what I want to say in the emails, and what I want AI to personalize. Now we're going to get to the fun part, which is leveraging AI to source the data and clean up the data. So what we're going to do here, we're going to do three things with AI. First, we're going to filter out. In my case, I want to reach out to people that know other people in the B2B space. So I'm going to filter out people that work at companies that are in B2B. We want to filter out people that work at B2C companies. So we're going to start there. Then we're going to clean their job function. So we're going to look at their job title, use AI to clean up and make this snippet. And then we're also going to normalize the company name. So we're going to take the company name, we're going to clean it up with AI. So then we can get this nice clean output like I'm showing you here. So how are we going to do this? We're going to use Clay. If you want to check it out, there's an affiliate link in the description below. If you sign up with it, you get a bunch of free credits. It's basically a AI canvas you can use to personalize a bunch of data at scale and do a bunch of go-to-market workflows. So we're going to jump into Clay here. I went to Apollo. I already scraped all the people that I want to use here. And so I'm just going to import this directly into Clay. If you've used Clay before and you want to find people directly in here, you can do that as well. There's a bunch of ways you can source data natively through Clay, but I'm just going to use Apollo and source it from here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the lead list that I want to use that we just scraped from Apollo, and we're going to let that load here. And then we're going to complete the import, and you're going to see all this data that we just scraped from Apollo, which is about 5,000 people. We just dumped into Clay really quick here. And so while this is loading in, you can see these are all the people we scraped. And so looking back at our filters, you can see we scraped head of go-to-market lead, director of go-to-market, head of business development, director of business development. Again, I kept this kind of light because there's a zillion titles we could reach out to, but I might also reach out to growth titles and sales titles and all kinds of other stuff. And so really all I want here is in this snippet to filter out for the go-to-market titles, put GTM, and for the business development titles to put business development. So this is pretty straightforward here. We have our list that we just pulled from Apollo, and now we're going to want to use AI to personalize this. So real quick, if you're watching this video and you want someone to come in and actually build out a system and manage it like I'm showing you in this video here, feel free to check the first link in the description below. We can either help you build out a cold email system and manage it and book calls on your behalf, or help answer any questions you have when trying to navigate sending cold emails at scale. So if you want to check that out, check the first link in the description below. Appreciate you a ton and hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Going back here to our sheet, we've determined how we want to leverage AI. And so actually I'm going to start with this. We're going to filter out all the people that work at B2C companies because their experience and their network probably isn't going to be as relevant as the people who work at B2B companies. So we're going to go over here inside Clay, and then we're going to press add column, and we're going to use AI here. Now I'm going to move my beautiful face out of the way. That way you can see the prompting stuff we're going to do here. And first we're going to start off by filtering out all the people that work at B2B companies. And so how are we going to do this? We're going to ask AI to check the websites that these people work at, and we're going to have it categorize whether the company they work at is a B2B or B2C company. The way that you prompt Clay is very similar to how you'd give a normal human instructions. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to go into this use AI tab, and we're going to go to the prompt, and we're going to ask it to number one, visit the website, and then number two, return if it's a B2B or B2C company. It's funny, Clay's actually default prompt here is exactly this. So the prompt is actually sitting right in front of us. I'm going to tweak this slightly more so we can be a little bit more defined with this, but I'm going to feed you a company website, and I want you to scour the website and determine if it's a B2B company or a B2C company. If it's a B2B company, output B2B. If it's a B2C company, output B2C. So again, I'm trying to be as crystal clear as I can with AI. We don't want there to be any confusion here. If you're not sure, output B2B. So I'm giving it kind of like an edge case here because some cases AI might not be able to come up with a clear answer. I'm going to only reach out to the people that work at B2B companies. And so I'd rather include like a small segment of the market that might not be relevant than exclude them out. So I'm just saying, hey, if you're really not sure, just categorize as B2B, might as well reach out to them. And now I'm going to feed it the website. Here is the company's website. So again, the way that we're prompting this is very similar to how you would talk to a human. You just want to have clear instructions, clear bounds, and make sure you feed it the data that is relevant. So we're going to feed it the company's website. And so I'm going to go over here to the website column and feed it the website. One last thing I'm going to do before I run this is I'm going to switch the model. So Clay, this is a tool you can use all kinds of different AI models. There's plenty of AI models, and the one I'm going to use actually is not the best AI model, but it is the best value AI model. So you can see Anthropic has all their stuff here. Gemini, OpenAI, and Clayagent has their own stuff that they've kind of put together. I'm going to use GPT-4o Mini. The reason why is because it is the best value model. If I end up using my own API key by going over to OpenAI's website and grabbing it myself, I'm able to do this for significantly cheaper than what Clay is charging and be able to do this cost effectively at scale. If this ends up costing me $1 per row that I run, this is going to cost me $5,000 because we have 5,000 rows. A Clay credit is like 3 cents. So again, I'm kind of exaggerating here, but if it costs 3 cents per 5,000 rows, I can still add up pretty quickly. If I use my own API key, it's a lot cheaper. And if we use cheaper models, again, it's going to be a lot cheaper. So I'm just going to save. I'm going to run 10 to start. That way I can see if the outputs look good. I'm not going to guess and check and do all of the stuff I would normally do if we were to run a campaign. In most cases, I want to go and actually verify if the outputs are exactly how I want them to be myself. In this case, I just want to see that it's outputting the right thing, which is B2B or B2C. Now, I'd expect most of these people are going to be in the B2B space because usually if you have like a business development title or a go-to-market title, these are titles that are heavily skewed to B2B companies. But in the case that we're reaching out to like a director of marketing or a director of sales or even like a director of growth, those are titles that are more common at B2C companies. And so again, this workflow might be more relevant, but again, I'm just doing this for the sake of this video. The outputs in this case look fine. And so I'm just going to have this run entirely at scale. So you can see just how simple that was with just a couple minutes of prompting, couple minutes of throwing some leads together here. We can have AI do all the filtering work that normally someone would manually have to go line by line and have this done, or you wouldn't be able to do this filtering at all. And then you'd just be reaching out to a bunch of people and not sure that they're accurate. So this is the first step in our workflow. And so this is complete. So first of all, we use AI to filter out the people that are B2C. I'll show you real quick how you can filter this out inside Clay. We can add a filter where business model type, which is what Clay categorizes as. Let me actually make this a separate column here. The way that you do this is by clicking into the cell and then hovering over the response and press adding column. I can go ahead here and just filter out anyone who has the response here B2C. So you can see this one does. I can go into the filters tab here here and then filter out people that have this response. I'm also going to show you how you can run a conditional formula to do this as well. But while this is running, we're going to move on to the next step here. So first we filtered out B2B. I'm going to highlight this green since we're done. Now we're going to want to clean the job function. So again, going back to our use case here, we're going to want to say, hey, I saw your leading job function. So the output here, assuming they're a head of business development or VP of business development, I want it to just say business development. I actually want it to say it in lowercase. So let me revise this and just say business development. So that's the ideal output we want here. And if they're in the go-to-market type role, I want to say GTM, or I could even have it spell out go-to-market entirely. So we're going to actually do this here. And then also we can, in the case that I actually want to run this at scale, I'd also have other titles like sales, growth, and a million other type of things here. But again, this is going to be a pretty simple use case. So we had AI scrape the web and return this in this case here. Now we're going to use AI yet again. And instead of having it research the web like we had at default, we're just going to have it clean up the data that we've already provided, because we can figure out or clean up the job function variable here simply by looking at their job title and just telling it to clean it up. So what we're going to do, we're going to prompt it here again. I am going to feed you a person's job title, and I want you to output their job function. And so that's kind of like a vague sounding prompt. And so I'm going to want to give it a real example. For example, if someone is a head of growth, I want you to output growth. Right? So I'm giving an example. If they're ahead of growth, I want you to say growth. All right, let me actually give it a few examples because I really don't want to mess this up. Here's a few examples of inputs and outputs. If someone is ahead of growth, I want you to output growth. If someone is a VP of business development, I want you to output business development. And if someone is a director of operations and partnerships, I want you to output operations and partnerships. Right? Again, I'm doing this on the fly, and you can see how this would kind of look back in the script here. Hey, took a look at your LinkedIn, saw you're leading operations and partnerships at company name. To me, that sounds normal and that sounds great. If someone is the director of operations and partnerships, that sounds like a good email here. So we fed it, we told AI, hey, this is what I want you to do. We gave it a bunch of examples. Here's what I want you to output. And now we're just going to feed it the input. So here is the job title, and then I'm going to feed it the job title, and then we're going to let it run. I'm going to go over here again. I'm going to switch the model. In this case, I might want to use a more expensive model. So I'll just show you what it looks like if we use a different one. We're going to use Sonnet here. And again, we're going to use our own API key. Again, the model doesn't really matter too much as long as it's powerful enough that it's giving you a good output and that it's cheap enough that it fits within your budget. In a lot of cases, the ones I use are the like GPT-4o ones or Anthropic's models. Again, the exact best practice might depend on when you're watching this video and depending on what models are out there and what the costs are. The last thing I'm going to say is only output the department function, nothing else. We're going to have this save and we're going to run 10 of these. And again, what we're looking for in this case, this is very simple since there's GTM and there's business development, that there really should only be two outputs, which is business development or GTM. And so again, this is a very simple use case. I'm going to try and scroll down and find someone or a title here that's go-to-market related. It looks like most of these are business development. So I'm going to scroll down. Cool. So it looks like this one's like head of GTM and people. And so I'm going to go over here and run this just to make sure that this looks good. Cool. And so it says GTM and people. So wonderful. So now we have this piece figured out and personalized as well. We're going to highlight the screen since this is completed. If I want to run this, all I have to do is run column and then run all 5,000 of these. Again, this is very simple once you have it down and once you get the prompting stuff down, and then we can move on to the next step. I'm going to go over here and just click through a few more of them. This is a bit redundant. And again, this is a very simple use case. I don't want to do a super complicated use case for this video and confuse everyone just getting into this, but this is just an example. And you can see this is a very simple example. Another way you could do this, I'm sure you could do this with a formula and without AI, but the beautiful use case here with AI is that you can feed it any sort of title. It can be a really wacky title and you don't have the super complicated formula that tries to run for everyone and then messes something up. The AI can pass in the data and then give you an almost perfect output every time. So now that's complete. And then one last thing that I'm going to do here and that I should have done is not run this for the people that are B2C. Since we don't want to be reaching out to these people, I'm going to actually set a conditional formula down here. So you can see inside Clay, there's an only run formula, and we can use AI to prompt this saying, I only want you to run this column if business model type response is B2B. So the reason why we're doing this, because ultimately we can have this run on everything, because we don't want to waste credits on people that we're ultimately not reaching out to. So if someone's B2C, we don't want to spend a bunch of AI credits on everyone else who's in the sheet. That way we're not wasting a bunch of credits. So this output's correct. I'm going to save and I'm going to run 10 of these again. And so let this run again real quick here. I'm actually going to pause this for a second here just so we don't burn through a ton of credits. All right, so now we reran this again, and you can see this cell here says run condition not met. The reason why is because this person's B2C and we don't want to waste a bunch of credits because we're not going to end up reaching out to this person. Awesome. So we filtered out the people that are not B2B. We clean the job function. That way we can have it perfect insert in an email. That way we're not saying their janky job title that might be super long and sound really weird. We're just saying the function that they're leading. Now we want to normalize the company name. So again, we're going to go back to Clay here and we're going to leverage AI one more time using, again, a very similar approach. We're going to go over here to add column. We're going to use AI again here. And then we're going to go over to the same use case before. We're not going to need to scrape the web since we already have the company names. And then we're going to pick our model. Again, the model doesn't matter here. In this case, we might go back to GPT-4o mini. I'm just switching between them to show you that it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. The only difference it really makes is cost, and that depends on your goals and exactly what you're trying to hit and if the outputs are good enough for what you want. And now in this case, we want to clean the company name. So what are we going to do? We're going to explain this just as if we were explaining it to a human being. So we're going to tell it the inputs and outputs we're going to give it. So I'm going to feed you a company name and I want you to output the company name in a cleaned format so it sounds human in a cold email. For example, so now we're going to tell it what it means. Again, we could just give it the inputs and outputs here, but I want to feed it as many examples as possible because the more examples you give AI, the better outputs it's going to give you. So for example, if I feed you the internal revenue service, I want you to output the IRS. Right? That's a perfect example of a long company name and how it can be shortened. Or let me just go back. Here's a few examples of how this might look. So I'm going to say if I feed you the internal revenue service, I want you to output the IRS. If I feed you Acme Corp, I want you to output Acme. If I feed you Josh's Roofing LLC, I want you to output Josh's Roofing, etc. So these are just like a few use cases. The more examples you can give to AI, the better. This is an example where it's abbreviating and shortening something. This is a case where it's just removing like the corporate LLC. This is a case where you're capitalizing something and removing an LLC, etc. Ultimately, I just want you to output a human sounding company name. So when I use it in a merge field in a cold email, that it doesn't sound automated. We're telling it ultimately our motives behind this, so hopefully it gives it some more context. Here is the company name I want you to clean, and then we're going to do the slash key here, and then we're going to insert the company name. And so you can see here, Apollo already has this like somewhat clean. They call it company name for emails. I like to run this through one last time. That way it looks as clean as possible. And so again, we're going to save this and run this 10 times. Clay's going to do its magic. AI is going to work its magic. I ultimately couldn't tell you how these companies do such a great job doing this on the back end. And you can see these company names look pretty clean to me. Now, I could go over here and we can run a bunch of these. In the case that I see a company name that I don't like, I'm going to go back into the prompt and I'm going to say, hey, this looks a little bit weird, or hey, remove this or change this around. In the case of this video, I'm going to try and keep this short. But if you don't like the outputs you're seeing, you can change that around here. See, I made the same mistake twice here, which I didn't include the filter here to not do this for B2C companies. I'm going to do this real quick here. I can actually just go to the edit column section and just swipe this over here and input it into the other column. Again, I'm going through this really quickly because I know your time is valuable and I want to make sure that I get through everything in this video. And so again, we're going to let this rerun. In this case, it looks like run conditions not met. And so this is exactly what we want to be doing. I'm not going to have it run for everything because again, I just want to do this as a demo, but pretend I went through here and ran this 10,000 times or 5,000 times, you'd be all set. Now, all this data is nice and neat here inside of Clay, but your next and final question here, assuming that we have all three of these steps completed and you're happy with your outputs, you looked at all the outputs and you're like, man, this looks perfect for cold email sending. Now we're going to want to insert these into email. So this ultimately, the way that you're actually doing this depends on the sending tool that you use. I like to use Smart Lead because Smart Lead is a phenomenal tool and it hasn't let me down yet. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to pop open Smart Lead. Again, if you want to check out a video on Smart Lead, I have other videos on my channel here where I talk about all the ins and outs of cold email sending. But you can see here, this is the cold email that we have here. So what I'm going to do so I can pull this in, there's two things I could do. Either I could have this import directly to Smart Lead inside of Clay by adding enrichment, and then I could type in Smart Lead. And you can see here, I can add the leads directly to the campaigns with all the data that I have here, or I can download this as a CSV. I'm going to do this because I think it's a little bit quicker. And so I'm going to go over here, actions and export, and then I'm going to download this as a CSV. So again, you can directly send this to Smart Lead inside of Clay, but I'm just going to do this since I think this is a little bit quicker and because I don't have the fields mapped inside of Smart Lead already. And so now you can see this is all set. Now I'm going to go back into Smart Lead and I'm going to upload the CSV. I'm going to upload this updated list here. I'm going to press save. And then now you can see I have all these different variables that I have set out here. So I'm going to go back to Clay real quick just to verify this. You can see clean company name. I'm going to call this company name, job function. We're going to make this a custom variable here. And then let me see here, business model type. What I should have done here is actually just not even include the people that are B2C. Let me actually redo this. So I'm going to go over to the filter section here. I'm going to filter for people where response equals B2B, response equal to B2B. That way we're only exporting the people that have the right criteria in the first place. Let me actually re-download this real quick. Wonderful. We have it re-downloaded. I'm not going to go through and rename this sheet here, but I'm going to delete this and re-add this. Wonderful. And then now we're going to be able to add this in here. So we're going to make the company name field mapped here, the job function field mapped here. We're going to call this a custom field. We're going to make sure that we include our email here as well. And we're going to include their LinkedIn as well. And we're going to save and next here. All right, now finally, we're inside Smart Lead. You can see it imported 1,600 people so far here that were categorized as B2B. And you can see here, this is our copy. I'm just gonna double check and make sure that our variables are named properly here. Inside Smart Lead, you can press this Insert Variables tab here and then pull in the variables. I forgot exactly what I named it, but if you want to double check what the variables are named, you can go inside back into Clay. And the way that Smart Lead names the variables is it's just the same name as the column here. So this one's called job function. So I'm gonna go over here and type job underscore function. I'm going to close this out. And then the company name, I just map that as company name. And so I'm going to press insert variables here. And I'm going to input company name here as well. It looks like Smart Lead tried to save it here, but let me try it again. And so hopefully this should be all set. Let me double check by doing a preview here. And let's see here. Looks like it all got pulled in properly here. So, hi Carlos, took a look at your profile and saw you're leading business development at C&G. Just curious, blah, 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 blah. Beautiful. So now this is all set. If I switch to the next person in the list here, same thing. It just pulled in all the data from Clay. And if I want to continue and run this campaign, which this video is not all about cold email sending, you can check out the other videos for that. All I have to do is configure the rest of the settings, add the email accounts, and do all the other dirty work that I didn't cover in this video here, and you should be good to send. Let's dive straight in. So in this video, we're covering templates that print meetings and exactly how you can write your own cold email template so you can do something similar. So first, we're going to cover the principles of writing good cold email copy. So the first tip that I'm going to give to anybody who wants to send out cold emails, regardless of what you're doing, you need to have a good offer, okay? The analogy I like to use is that you can only put so much lipstick on a pig, because regardless of how good your copy is, if you have a terrible offer, no one is going to reply to your cold emails. And I mean nobody. You can learn this the hard way by doing this yourself. I would not recommend it. Just try and start off by selling something that people want, because I don't know about you, but this pig does not look very attractive to me. The lipstick only does so much, so you can only do so much with your copy to make your offer sound good. But if you just have a terrible offer, then nobody's going to want to respond to your cold emails. You're not going to get any meetings booked, and it's just going to be a disaster. So how to make your offer better? The number one thing you can do is lower risk for the people buying your stuff. You can do this in two ways: by either guaranteeing results or working on a performance basis. Personally, in my agency, I work on a performance basis. Other people guarantee results, and you can do both. What this basically does is it makes it more of a no-brainer for someone who wants to buy your service, because if you guarantee results or you work on performance, then the chances of them getting the actual result that you're guaranteeing is a million times higher. The second point that I would say to make your offer better is to solve actual pain points in the market. I say this because some people just try and sell stuff that the market doesn't want. A perfect example is saturation. A lot of people think that market saturation is a bad thing, when in reality it's a good thing, because it means that the market actually wants to buy what you're selling. So if you're selling something that nobody has ever sold before, that could be a bad sign. That that could also be a good sign. But generally, if you're just starting out, I'd recommend selling stuff that people actually know that they want, because then you know there's actual demand for it. Another piece to make your offer better is to do it faster. So if you, let's say, get leads for people like I do, one of the ways you can make your offer better is to guarantee that you get leads in 30 days. Say you can get them in 14 days. If you can get it in 1 day, that would be a better offer. So having some sort of time element in your offer, let's say you make short form content videos. If you say that we can do it in a day, then that has way more value than saying that it takes 2 months. So that's just an example. And I would recommend reading $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. Shout out Alex Hormozi if you're lost, because it's a killer book on how to craft good offers. Number 2 principle for writing cold email copy is to keep your copy short. If your copy is too long, nobody will read it. Okay, imagine you open your email and you see this. Okay, you open your email, all that text is there. I don't know about you, but you're not reading that, okay? This is just a big block of text. I don't know who just emailed me. I don't know what you want. So why would I read your cold email copy, especially if it's this long? Nobody's reading that copy. So the shorter your copy is, the better. So remember that whenever you're cold emailing someone, they don't know who you are. You're interrupting their day. So write like you are. So make it short and make it sweet, and that'll make your cold email copy perform way better. And then the third point that I want to bring up is to personalize your cold email copy. If you try and speak to everybody, you speak to nobody. And I want to illustrate this with an example. So the example is, I can help your business make money versus I can help your frozen yogurt shop increase yogurt sales by 40% in the next 30 days. So think about, if you're a yogurt shop and you got this message, which one are you responding to? It's pretty obvious. In my eyes, I wouldn't respond to this because it sounds like something you just blasted out to 10,000 people, which is probably what you did, versus this one, which you took a more personalized approach. All you did is called out that they are a frozen yogurt shop, tailored your offer to exactly what you're going to provide, and give them a time frame. So if you think about the exact type of person that you're reaching out to, and write the emails if you were talking to them specifically, not a whole audience of people, but that person specifically, your cold emails are going to convert way better. So you can achieve this by a handful of ways. One of the ways that I like to do it is just call out stuff about them. So in this example, if you use a vague thing like calling out that they run a business, that's very vague and that's not even personalized. Versus if you call out frozen yogurt shops, like you're reaching out to frozen yogurt shops, then it feels way more personal. So calling out their industry, the market problems. So let's say another example is that we help frozen yogurt shops unclog their yogurt machines. Okay, you wouldn't send that message out to a dog groomer because they don't have frozen yogurt machines. So calling out market problems is another way that you can personalize it, or you can use AI first lines. Personally, I don't recommend AI first lines because they really just aren't as effective and they cost a lot of money. But the main point is just to make sure it's relevant. Make sure it's actually relevant to your business, because if you call out a frozen yogurt machine and you reach out to a dog groomer, then it's not going to look good. So these are 3 principles that you should use whenever you're writing your cold emails. So let's dive into subject lines. The goal of writing a good subject line for cold emails is to create intrigue. What that means is just getting them to open the email. That's it. All you're trying to do is get them to open the email, nothing else. You're not trying to sell them on the service. You're not necessarily even trying to tell them what's inside the email. You're just trying to get them to open the email. So here's some example subject lines that you can apply right away in your cold emails to help skyrocket your open rates. So the first one, quick question. This is one that I'm sure a lot of you have heard if you've been in the cold email game for a long time. If you haven't, then this might be new to you, but quick question has worked well and continues to work well. Maybe in the future it won't, but the reason why it works so well is because it just creates intrigue. Whenever you see quick question and then your name, you're just wondering what's inside the email. So it creates a lot of intrigue. Another option you can put is just their name with a question mark. So if you got an email and it just says John question mark, it's probably going to raise some eyebrows and get you to open the email. So that's another way of doing it. Thoughts is a good one, and question for name. So these are just 4 examples, but what I want you to notice is that it's just about creating intrigue, okay? When you see all these subject lines, it instantly makes your brain think, what is inside this email? And that's how you know it's a successful subject line. So going into the body copy, so you want to use all the principles that were stated above here, but here's just a general layout of what body copy in a cold email looks like. So you can have a personalized intro, that's optional. You present your offer, which is what you're selling. A case study, it's optional but also useful, and then the call to action. So these are pretty self-explanatory, but if it doesn't make sense, intro, you're just introducing yourself or calling out something about them. Offer is what you're selling, you're trying to get them to do. Case study is showing that you actually know what you're doing. And the call to action is actually just showing them what action to take next. So here's some templates that you can directly plug into your business to use for cold emails to make your cold emails convert way better. So here's just a standard cold email template that I would just recommend. If you don't know what you're doing, it's very simple and it just gets the job done. It's pretty much the most standard cold email you can run, which is just hey name. So first, you want to start basically off all your cold emails with hey first name. We can help industry get result by using mechanism, and then insert a case study, interested in learning more. It's that simple. You don't need to write a big paragraph like this, which is where most people get lost. They'll write some big thing talking about their founder's history, the company's history, the in-depth mechanism, exactly what's going to happen after you buy. None of that. You need to just scrap all that and just keep it super simple. So intro, offer, case study, call to action. So in this first template, it's just hey name, we help you get result by using mechanism, case study, interested in learning more. So here's an example of using this template in action. Hey John, we help painting companies get 3 new jobs per month by using our painting accelerator program. We just did this for Jimmy's Painting and they got 6 new jobs in the first 19 days. Interested in learning more. So this is a really effective cold email because it just calls out the exact audience. You call out that you're targeting painting companies. You're telling them the exact result that you're getting them per month. You're giving a time frame and you're giving a mechanism using our painting accelerator program. And you're giving an example. So we just did this for Jimmy's Painting and they got 6 new jobs in 19 days. It's a pretty simple email, but a lot of people mess this up because they make it way too long. They talk about the ins and outs of the Painting Accelerator program. Once again, just like with the subject line, you're just trying to create intrigue to get them on the call. With the subject line, you're just trying to get them to open the email. With the email, you're just trying to get them on the call, and then on the call, you can do the selling. Another example of a cold email template that's working really effective right now is just a one-liner. This works really well just because of the simplicity. It makes you seem not automated, and it just works really well because it gets directly to the point. So, hey name, would you be interested in offer? Yes, it is that simple. So here's an example. Hey John, would you be interested in getting more painting jobs? If you got this cold email, it's super easy to respond yes or no. It's really easy from the prospect side because you're not trying to send a bunch of words that they're, most people just have really bad attention spans is what I'm trying to get at. And so if you can use that to your advantage and just get straight to the point, especially when they don't know you, then that will help you book way more meetings. So just getting straight to the point with a one-liner of a problem around your offer can help produce really good results. So the next example is the case study example. So we use case studies in this one, but this is centered around the case study. So hey name, here's a personalized first line. Was searching for industry and came across your website. We just helped another industry get result in time frame and was wondering if we could do something similar. Interested in learning more. Basically, here's an example of what that looks like because that's kind of complicated. Hey John, was searching for painting companies and came across your website. We just helped another painting company get 5 jobs in the past 17 days and was wondering if we could do something similar for Williams Painting, which is an example of a company. Interested in learning more. So this is really effective because you're just interlinking the case study into the actual offer statement. You're saying we help someone else just like you get the result that you want and was wondering if we could do something similar. So it comes off as pretty casual, it gets straight to the point, it highlights the benefit of your service, and it uses a case study to do it. So this is really effective and something that I would recommend if you have solid case studies. Here's another template that you can use, the video strategy template. So, hey name, I was browsing your website and had a couple of ideas of how you could fix pain point. I recorded a quick video showing you how you can fix pain point. Is it okay if I send it over? So in this strategy, you're actually going to have to record videos using a software like Loom or OBS, which is what I'm recording this video with. So as long as you're okay with that, that can work really well. And it's really effective because if people say you record them a video, they're more likely to want to see it. Example of how you can use the strategy is, hey John, I was browsing your website and I had a couple ideas of how you could get more painting jobs. I just recorded you a quick video showing you how you can get 5 more painting jobs in the next 15 days. Is it okay if I send it over? So I would imagine that if you own a painting company and someone showed you exactly how you can get 5 painting jobs in the next 15 days, you'd probably send a response. So you can apply this to basically any industry, but you just want to highlight the pain points of that specific industry. So in this example, it's getting more painting jobs. I don't know if that's really a pain point in the painting industry, but it's just an example. So these are all email one ways or email one templates that you can use. But here's an example of a follow-up you can use. So you're going to send out these emails. Some people aren't going to respond right away. So here's a follow-up template that you can use. Hey name, I just want to circle back about offer, insert case study, interested in learning more. So it's basically the same formula we're using, but you're just saying that you want to circle back because it's the second email you send them. So an example of how this would look is saying, hey John, just want to circle back to see if you want to get 5 more painting jobs. We just helped Jimmy's Painting get 6 new jobs. High level overview, I basically ran over the stuff really quick, but if you want to look over it again, there's the standard template where you cover your offer and insert a case study with a call to action. There's the one-liner, which is you just asking them if they're interested in your service. There's the case study template, which is giving them a personalized first line, and then inserting a case study that you got for a similar client in a similar industry and asking if you can do something similar. And then the video strategy, where you can offer to fix a pain point using a short video explaining how. The follow-up's pretty standard, just asking if you want to circle back with a case study. All right, so that's the scripting framework. And now that you have this whole engine kind of set up and built, you can upload the campaign. And after you start sending, you're going to get replies. But getting replies is only half the battle. The other half of the battle is setting the appointment so you can ultimately get on the calls with people and start getting sales appointments. Which brings us to appointment setting, which is turning the replies into booked meetings. And so this is honestly the most overlooked part of cold email. You can send perfect emails, but if you can't set appointments, then you're leaving all kinds of money on the table. All right, now it's time to set appointments. So you've sent out emails, you're getting responses, you're getting people that are interested, not interested, in all parts in between. So first, we're going to talk about what it looks like, how you can categorize leads, and what to do conceptually. Then I'm going to show you the tools so you can go out and execute this and get people on the phones with you. The first thing to understand is after you send out your emails, let's say you send out email 1, they don't respond, and you get email 2, and then the lead responds positively. So I'm just going to put PR for positive response. Whenever you get interested leads coming in the door, you're going to want to make sure you respond to them as fast as possible. You're going to get all kinds of other leads. You're going to get not interested, you're going to get out of office, you're going to get do not contact. In Smart Lead and all these different tools have tags inside their platform so you can categorize them. So jumping into Smart Lead, this is what the master inbox looks like. You can see over here on the left hand side you have all the leads, and in the top right here you have the lead category. So in this case, this lead is interested, so I tag them as interested follow up, and we are sending follow-up emails to them, and we add them to a sub campaign to continually follow up with them. If they're not interested though, I can mark them as not interested. I can mark them as meeting booked after we schedule the meeting and out of office. So step 1 is anytime you get an incoming response, you're going to want to categorize it. Categories are very clear. Not interested if they're not interested, out of office if they're out of office, and interested if they are interested. Cool thing is Smart Lead's AI can auto categorize it if you use Smart Lead. I believe Instantly and some other platforms can do this as well. And so that can save you a lot of time whenever you're filtering through the inbox. And the reality is, just so you guys watching this, a majority of the people you're sending emails to are not even going to be interested. And of those people that are interested, they're not going to book calls. Just to give you some rough numbers, you might need to email 100 people, 50 people to even get a response. And then of those, maybe 1 in 5 of them are actually interested. And then of those, maybe 1 in 5 of those book calls. So just so you know, a majority of the replies you're going to get are not going to be interested, which is why, again, we preach volume and talk about that so much. On average, I would say about 20 to 30% of people respond back and book via email if they're interested. So 20 to 30% of interested replies. And then if you add calling and multi-channel, you can bump that up so you could get closer to 50%. Whenever you're getting these responses too, an important thing to note is don't try to convince people that aren't interested. You're going to get a lot of these not interested, out of office, do not contact, and that's going to be a majority of your responses. Don't waste your breath and don't waste your poor fingers trying to convert these people into interested if they're not. Because if they're not even interested on the front end, not all those people are even going to get on the calls, and you have to close them. You can convert some not interested into interested responses, but it's very rare, and you have to frame it in the right way. And I would say in most cases, just focus on nurturing and working the positive replies as much as you possibly can. So very simply, when responses come in, you go over here. It's very straightforward. All right, so I'll show you a real example here. So I'm jumping in the inbox. You can see Smart Lead already auto-categorized this person is not interested, but I'm going to click into it and make sure that they actually are not interested. So you can see this guy said, hey, Matt, I'm in the energy business, designing and building power plants such as geothermal, carbon capture for data centers and local power companies. I'm not sure how you intend to book 3,000 meaningful meetings in that sector because we mentioned that we booked 3,000 meetings. Now, honestly, in this case, I think this is someone I can convert. Now, the way that I would convert them is not exactly as simple as just like, hey, let's get on a call, because this person's skeptical. So I probably wouldn't even mark this person as interested. They gave some, high level interest. They didn't say that they're not interested. They just were not sure that we can actually book them meetings. And so what I might do to go to respond to this person is go to Apollo, pull up a lead list of geothermal, carbon capture, or data center companies. Or what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to say, hi, Dan, we might not be able to book 3,000 meetings in your space. However, I'm sure there are plenty of companies we can source, maybe in the middle of a design process, that you can help. Given that your deal size are probably large, we don't need to send you thousands of meetings to make an impact. I'm going to do a smiley face back to prove the point. I'd be happy to schedule a quick call to see if we can help. Are you free on, and I'm going to go Google this guy's name. So this guy's name is Dan Sommer. What's this guy's company? This guy's in Idaho, it looks like. So I'm going to, what is Idaho time zone? This guy's in Mountain Time. Are you free on Tuesday and I'm going to find some times that are available for me here at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. chat to see if we can locate those people. Let me know and I can shoot a calendar invite. Thanks. All right, awesome. So let me dissect this, because this is actually a perfect example. Whenever you're responding to people, in this case, smart lead categorized as not interested, I think it's worth trying to work this lead here. And the way that I'm responding to him, I'm including 3 important pieces. So the first piece of an email in any sort of response is answering their questions. So this guy said, I'm not sure how you intend to book 3,000 meetings in my space. Now, we didn't say that we're going to book him 3,000 meetings. We just talked about our track record that we can book 3,000 meetings, or we have booked 3,000 meetings. And so I'm leaning in. I'm actually agreeing with him. I'm saying, hey, man, I'm not sure we need to either, but I'm sure we can locate other people. And also, given that your deal size are large, I think we can make an impact. Then the next part of the email is we're selling him on the call. So I'm telling him, hey, might as well be worth a quick call to see if we can help. So I'm not saying that we will be able to help. I'm not saying that we are the perfect fit, but I'm saying it couldn't hurt to have a quick call. And then I'm going straight in for the pitch. I'm saying, hey, are you free at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. Mountain Time to see if this is worth a chat? Now, again, I'm actually going to give a little bit more flexibility in the time. I'm going to say like, or 2 p, I'll do 3 p.m. MST. So I'm giving him 2 different time options, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, to see if any of these work. And then I'm saying I'm going to shoot a calendar invite. So the 3 important things: answer his question, sell the call, and then pitch sometimes and try and secure the deal. So I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to send this. Very cut and dry. This person was marked as interested. I'm going to mark them as interested and follow up, and then we can move on. You can see this is an example actually of a not interested one. I wasn't expecting that not interested one to actually be interested or semi-interested, worth trying to work. But you can see this guy just said no thanks, and then we move on. So very straightforward. So a couple important things to matter whenever you're responding to emails that come in. So the first principle whenever you're responding to emails is that speed is king. The faster you can respond to emails, the more likely someone is to respond back to you timely and be interested. So I think there's some stat out there that, for every a few minutes that goes by, the chance of you booking a call drops pretty quickly. Same is true with email. The faster you can respond to someone, the more likely they are to get into a sales meeting with you. Second thing to note is keep your email short. You just saw an example of me writing out an email. You want to keep it short, direct to the point, answer their question, sell them on a call, and then pitch times. The biggest mistake I see people make that fumbles all kinds of deals is they don't even pitch times. They don't even offer them times to schedule a meeting. And what this leads to is that people can't book a call because you don't give them options to book a call. They keep having back and forth over email, and the email ends in no man's land. So push for a call every single time, every single response to every single email, if they're even interested a little bit. I'll show you a few more examples of how responses can be with some of our own campaigns we're actively running. And so here's a couple more interested responses that have come in. You can see this guy here. This was an automatic response. And so we pitched him pricing because he asked about pricing. So we're going to wait for this guy and we're going to move on to the next one. So you can see here, this guy, we sent a couple emails to. He said, send some details. And so we sent him a long email outlining our details. Hey, essentially we do outbound lead generation using email and LinkedIn, similar to how we reach out to you. We handle everything end to end, blah, 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 blah. We pitch sometimes. This guy was skeptical. He said, is 10K the fixed salary? I'm not sure we even saw that $10,000 was our pricing. And so we just came back to him and he said, no, pricing really depends on your needs. And so one really easy way to handle pricing objections here is to kind of leave it open-ended, because I'm sure anyone who runs their own business knows that you have stuff that's really expensive, some stuff that's cheaper, and some stuff in between. Some people like to call it every single price point. Now, I personally am a big fan of just leaving it open-ended because we might pitch them something else. And you can see this guy here said, sure, I'm looking forward to it. And he booked a call through a link. And so I'm actually going to go over here and mark this as a meeting booked. And then I'll show one more response here, one more conversation. So we sent an email. This person said, thanks for your email. Absolutely interested to share your process. And then we can book a time in. We sent this email outlining everything we do. We talked about what we did. We talked about our process. We pitched some times, we gave them a calendar, and then we also gave them a document that goes into this in more detail. This person said, let's chat. We're in the EST time zone. And so we pitched a couple of times. Now, I could do two things. One, this guy has a Calendly here, so I could probably just book directly in on his calendar. Or alternatively, I can just book him in based on one of the two time zones that he has here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and open up this guy's calendar. And you can see his Calendly is pretty wide open. And so what I'm going to do is just find a time that works for me on Tuesday, and I'll just throw it in. So I'm going to click this in, Lucero, anivamarketing.com, chat from cold email. We're going to schedule this in. We're going to go back to the inbox. Pietro, I just grabbed some time on your calendar and your signature for Tuesday at 12 EST. Excited to chat. And we're going to send that over. And that's another booked call for us. So you can see, again, we have these campaigns, we're running these at scale, and we've been doing this for a while. But you can see just in the last few minutes, we picked up a couple responses that we sent an email out to a lead that was categorized not interested to try and get them interested. There's someone that we had a conversation with and they booked in on their own accord. And then you can see this guy said he was interested and he booked in himself. And then you saw a couple examples of other people responding in other different ways. Now, the last thing you're going to want to do if you really want to maximize the amount of meetings you're booking is to follow up on multiple channels. And so what we have internally is we have an automated workflow using HeyReach, which is a LinkedIn outreach platform where we automatically connect to every single lead that raises their hand. So this lead here, if I click this I button, I already know that he got a connection request because we have this set up. But if I click in here, you can see that this says pending here because we sent this guy a connection request. So you can use a tool like HeyReach to automate this. We have a workflow built out with Smart Lead and HeyReach and Clay that's able to automate this whole process so that we can follow up on multiple channels. And we do this with literally every single lead that comes through our door. That way we can maximize throughput. Another thing you can do is use a dialing tool like Salesfinity so you call the leads. If you really want to squeeze out all the juice from all the leads, you're going to not want to just follow up with them on email. You're going to follow up on LinkedIn, and then you're also going to call them. And the more touch points you do, the higher percentage of people that come through your pipeline you're able to get into meetings, which ultimately will help you convert more deals. Another question I get asked all the time is how many times do you follow up? And the true answer is that you should follow up as much as you realistically can without getting someone to say F off. So what's really cool inside Smartly is they have this feature called subsequences, which if you press here in this more button, you can press subsequence. And so this lead's already in a subsequence, which is basically just a series of follow-ups after your initial email. So you can continually follow up with them. But when in doubt, if you're doing this automated or manually, it doesn't matter. Follow up as much as possible until no more time in the day to continue to follow up with people or until you get someone saying that they're not interested. Another really common thing that happens is a lot of people do say that they're interested and then they ghost you. Like in this case, this guy said, let's chat. He had his calendar. I plugged it in. If someone ghosts you, all you gotta do is just continue to follow up. Send them emails, send them calls, send them LinkedIn connection requests. And worst comes to worst, you can just shoot them a calendar invite and see if they show up. Now, I really wouldn't recommend this in most cases, but if you're super desperate and you want to get someone on the calendar, you can just send them a calendar invite. But really the cure to everything is just continual follow-up, constant follow-up across multiple channels, and keep doing it until you get some sort of response. I see so many people lose out on thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars simply due to a poor follow-up process from their cold outreach, which is why today I'm going to be talking about the optimal way to follow up from cold email, how you should follow up with people, what you should say, and what you should do to maximize the total amount of warm leads that you have, that can ultimately convert into closed deals instead of having them go completely cold. So let's just jump straight in. Today, we're going to be talking about follow-ups when sending cold emails. So more specifically, we're going to be talking about number one, the optimal amount of cold email follow-ups to send to cold people. So if we're reaching out to strangers and we're sending 1,000 cold emails a day, do we send one email to 1,000 people? Do we send 2 emails to 500 people? Do we send 3 emails to 333 people? We're going to talk about how we go about that. Then we're going to talk about number 2, what to say to interested leads. So if someone raises their hand and says, yes, I want more info, what do we say to them? Then number 3, we're going to be talking about how to maximize the amount of total appointments scheduled from hand raisers. So if someone says, yes, I am interested, tell me more information, how do we take that person and get them to a call on your calendar? So first, we're going to be talking about the optimal amount of cold email follow-ups to send to cold people. So just to be clear, again, let's say hypothetically we have 1,000 emails per day in cold email sending volume that we're doing. And if that sounds like a lot of cold emails, then watch the other videos on this channel because we talk about high volume cold outreach. So if we're sending 1,000 cold emails a day and we're left with a few options here, we can either send one cold email to 1,000 people. We can send a 2 email sequence, which means we're sending 2 emails to 500 people. We can send a 3 cold email sequence, and then we're cutting it further down. So the question just is, how many emails is too many? Do we send 5 emails to 200 people? So I'm going to jump in here. And the first point that I want to make is that if you send too little follow-ups, you're going to miss leads. So if you just send someone one follow-up email, you're obviously going to miss out on some people who would have maybe said yes to a follow-up email, which is clear. The other thing that a lot of people fail to consider is that if you send too many follow-ups, you're going to get people reporting you as spam, and you're also going to get lower results. So I'm going to use an example here. Let's say we're reaching out to strangers again, and we're sending 1,000 emails a day. If we send the same guy an email after, he doesn't respond, okay, fine. We send him another email. We send him another email. At a certain point, this person is probably going to get really pissed at you and just say, hey, stop responding to me or stop sending me emails. Or maybe they're just going to report you as spam and it's going to hurt your sender reputation. So again, we're talking about if you're doing this at scale, if you keep following up with people, you're going to increase the probability you're going to get spam reports, which is going to hurt your deliverability and your results as a whole. And also what we're going to talk about here in a second is that usually with follow-ups, you see diminishing returns. So let's say hypothetically, if you get 10 interested leads from a sequence like this, 6 of them might come from your email 1, 2 of them might come from your email 2, 1 of them might come from your email 3, and you see pretty hard diminishing returns with the amount of follow-ups you send. So usually less is more, which we're going to get to here in a second. So there's downsides to sending too little follow-ups. There's downsides to sending too many follow-ups. So what do we do here? Typically, what I want to emphasize is typically new leads get better results than old ones. So what do I mean here? Again, if we're sending 1,000 cold emails a day, you're going to get most of your responses from your email 1. You're going to get less of your responses from your email 2. You're going to get less from your 3. You're going to get less from your 4. And this makes sense. The reason why is because if someone is the hottest, most warm leads are going to raise their hand immediately because they have the immediate pain. And usually the people that you catch from your follow-ups, it's just that the timing wasn't right in that exact moment, or they have less of a need, or, whatever it might be. If they have the most burning, hottest pain, they're probably going to respond to your email 1 and you're going to see diminishing returns, which makes sense. So the question becomes, do we send, a bunch of follow-ups and, try and squeeze everything out of it as possible, or do we send less follow-ups and try and maximize the results? So the answer here is, if possible, let's say hypothetically, you have a total addressable market of 1 million people, right? If you have a total addressable market of 1 million people that you can reach out to, and you're sending 1,000 emails a day, there's no reason why you should send follow-ups to these people if they haven't raised their hand. I would much rather hit all of these 1 million people one time than try and hit 500,000 of these people 2 times, or 100,000 of the people 3 times, or whatever. You can do the math. You get the idea. We want to reach out to more new people rather than following up with people that haven't expressed interest, because it just comes back to this point that you typically see diminishing returns with follow-ups. Now, the caveat here is that a lot of times your total addressable market might not be this big. So again, let's assume hypothetically you have 1,000 emails a day worth of sending volume. If your market size is only 10,000 people, you're going to burn through all of those people in 10 days if you just send them one follow-up. So in this case, the way that you'd maximize your results is sending more follow-ups, which we're going to talk about here. So more specifically, or just to be clear here, if you have a big total addressable market, or you are not sending a lot of cold emails, you should probably just send fewer emails emails to more people. Now, if your market is very small, then that means that you should send more follow-ups because this will overall maximize the results you're getting. So the caveat here again is your addressable market size. And also I want to be clear, this concept only applies to people that are cold. If someone responds, if someone says, yes, I am interested, that's a totally different ballgame because they have now been engaged and you want to follow up with them into eternity, which is what we're going to talk about here in a second. So super high level, if you're running a cold email sequence and you want to figure out how many emails you should send in your cold sequence to people that don't raise their hand, it depends on your market size. If your market size is bigger, you want to send less cold emails. If your market size is smaller, you're going to send more cold emails to the same people because there's only so many people you can reach out to. When someone raises their hand, we want to maximize those leads. We're going to talk about how to do that in part 3 here. The next thing I want to talk about is what to say to interested leads. So let's say you listen to me, you're like, hey, Matt, my addressable market's really big, but it's not insanely big. So we're going to send, 2 total emails in our sequence. Awesome. Now let's say on the email 2, someone raises their hand and they say, yes, I am interested, or whatever it might be. What do I say to them to actually get them on the phone or maximize that probability? So the second thing we're going to be talking about here is what to say to interested leads. So in the case that someone says that they're interested, I have a 3-part framework. The first part of the framework is to answer their question. Most of the time when people are interested, they don't just say, yes, I'm interested, let's get on a call. Usually they say something along the lines of, can you send me more info? Can you tell me your pricing? Can you tell me how this works? So the first thing you're going to want to do in the case that they say anything like this is just answer their question. So if someone says, as an example, send me more information, you want to send them more information. And you can do this pretty concisely. Just give them a couple sentences about who you are, what you do, and something like that. After you give them information, you don't just want to leave it there because you want to get them on a call. If you're watching this video and you're doing cold outreach, there's a very high probability that you're going to get the maximum amount of sales if you get them on a call. You usually don't want to be doing the sales conversation over cold email because it's a lot harder to sell someone over email than it is on a call. So after you answer their question, then you want to tie in whatever their question was with the reason that they should schedule a call. So what does that mean? As an example, let's say someone says, tell me more information. You give them more information, then you follow that up with, I think that we should get on a call. That way I can tell you even more information. So what you're doing here is you are selling the call as a reason to get exactly what they just asked for. So if they asked about pricing, you're saying, hey, we should get on a call so we can talk more in depth about pricing and see what pricing makes the most sense for you because we have a lot of options or whatever it might be. Or if they ask for more info, you say, awesome, here's a little bit of info, but I'd love to get on a call so I can give you even more info. This way you are taking them, the sales conversation, away from the email and onto an actual call where you can get the money. Because if you take your sales conversation and you continue to go back and forth over email, you're just going to have email after email after email. And usually they're just going to keep going back and forth and you're not going to be able to handle objections appropriately, get to the root issues. It's a very transactional type of conversation. But if you take it straight from the email to a phone, let's just pretend that this is a nicely drawn phone that is ringing or whatever, then you can close the deal because you can handle objections and you can get to the root of their pain points. So you're going to tie in whatever their question was with the reason that they should have a call. And then after that, you're going to go straight in for the kill and you're going to propose times to meet in their time zone. I emphasize in their time zone because it's easier for them to pick a time if it's in their time zone. So as an example, I'm just going to verbalize this out. The way that you would respond to someone saying, can you send me more info, is you give them a little bit more info. You tell them that you should schedule a call. That way I can give you even more info. And then you say, hey, does this time or this time work for a call? Very elegant way to get them off of email onto a phone call. And that way you can maximize revenue. So that's what you should do when someone says they're interested. In most cases, people aren't going to immediately book a call. On average, what we see from our customers is anywhere from 20% to as high as 50% of people book calls off of interested leads. But in a lot of cases, that might come from additional follow-ups, which is what we're going to talk about here in a second. And this is ultimately what you do to maximize the total proportion of people that raise their hand into booked meetings on your calendar. So number 3, how do you maximize meetings booked? And like I said here, you don't want to incessantly follow up with strangers at scale if they're not interested, because again, your efforts are better spent just reaching out to more new people. But assuming someone raises their hand, you said all the things we said here, and they don't book a call, you're going to want to continually follow up with them. So if there's a positive reply, you're going to want to do 3 things. You're going to want to connect with them on LinkedIn. You're going to want to send them a reply over email, and you're going to want to double dial them. Now, this isn't in any particular order. If I would have had to pick an order here, I'd probably start with dialing. So someone says, yes, I'm interested. Before you even respond to them over email, you can try and call them. That's the easiest way to get them on a phone call, is just try and call them directly, and then you can set them on another phone call. So I would start off in a hypothetical universe where you have infinite resources, double dial them, see if they pick up. If they don't pick up, send them an email. You can send them an email saying, hey, I just tried calling you. I'm just going to drop this email here. You give them the framework that we just talked about, and then you can send them a connection request on LinkedIn. Now, what does this do? You're following with them on 3 channels immediately when they're the most interested, as quickly as possible, which shows you that, number one, that you're not just an AI bot, because, you know, an AI bot might respond over email. You're responding on all different channels. So you're hitting them on LinkedIn, you're hitting them on email, you're dialing them. And then if they don't respond, then you do the same thing over again. You message them on LinkedIn, you follow up them on email, you dial again. And also, to be clear here, when I say double dial, basically what you're doing is, instead of just dialing them once, you dial them twice in a row. The reason why is because a lot of people that have iPhones, like I do, and if you have do not disturb enabled, what this does is it auto rejects the first phone call that someone gets. And so if you dial them twice, then it goes through the do not disturb and actually lets your phone call ring. So easy hack for anyone doing any sort of cold calling. So anyways, if someone is interested, then you send them, or you try and call them twice, you respond to them over email, you connect with them on LinkedIn, and then you wait a day and you do the same thing over again, and you do this into all of eternity. Now, obviously there's some limitations on your time. I would imagine you don't have infinite time and resources if you're watching this video, because everyone has a limited amount of resources in some way. And so the way that I like to prioritize leads is, the warmer and more interested a person is, the more love and attention I'm going to give them. The colder a lead is, the less love and attention I'm going to give them. Like I said here, if they're super cold, there's no point in following up with them because they haven't expressed interest. But people that say they're interested, you're going to want to continually follow up with them. Now, as you continually build up a pipeline, you're probably going to want to prioritize the people that responded most quickly instead of the people from ages and ages ago. So as you continue to build up a bank of interested responses, you can prioritize the people that are newer. Another quick hack, and what we have started to roll out to our customers, is automating this LinkedIn connection request with a tool like HeyReach. HeyReach allows you to connect a LinkedIn account, and you can kind of build these automated LinkedIn workflows. And so what you can do is, if someone's interested, you can set up a workflow that they instantly get a LinkedIn connection request. You can manually respond them over email, and then someone on your sales team can dial them twice, and then you can continue this process over and over again. So at a super high level, this is how you run a follow-up system that continually generates appointments and maximizes the amount of total leads you get. If you're sending out cold emails, you want to reach out to as many new people as possible. If you get someone who's interested, you're going to want to follow up quickly, answer their question, tie in their question with the reason why they should book a call. And if someone is interested and raises their hand, you want to follow up with them as many times as you can across as many platforms as possible. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. LinkedIn connection requests, email replies, calling them, and then you can run it all over again. The more you personalize it, the better results you're going to get. And then you can automate it using a tool like HeyReach. You can use a tool like Smartly to respond to people, and you can dial them using your phone. Hey, what's up? In today's video, we're going to be covering how you can book 30 plus qualified sales calls per month using cold email. If you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Lucero. I currently run a performance-based lead gen agency over at anivomarketing.com. So here's proof this works. Here's automated revenue. We recently helped them book 62 meetings and collect $19,500 in closed deals within the first 60 days of working together. Here's 4 meetings we booked them in the first day, multiple deals closed, and 3 sales calls we booked them in 26 minutes. Here's another consulting firm that we're working with right now. We helped them book 41 meetings within the first 30 days. Once again, 3 meetings booked in a single day. Here's a bunch of meetings from the meeting log that we have that I could fit in the screenshot. And then in my own business, I've booked countless meetings, multi 5 figures in cash collected upfront from closed deals from cold email. 9 back-to-back sales calls in one day. This was a hectic day. And then 33 meetings in one of the months. So you can clearly see that this stuff works. But yeah, that's the power of cold email. But the first thing I want to cover is bridging the gap with cold email, and why you should watch the video to the end, because cold email is a great mechanism for booking tons and tons of meetings with qualified prospects. It's super predictable. It's super targeted. Once you collect the data, you can figure out pretty obviously how many meetings you're going to book once you actually get everything dialed. But I see cold email as a bridge. So if any one brick is missing, then you're not going to be able to cross the bridge, or you're going to see significantly less booked calls or no calls altogether. And I have this plotted out with this diagram. So bridging bridging the gap. If you have your offer, your lead list, your copy, your deliverability, and your response handling super dialed with super strong email volume, you're going to be able to book a ton of meetings. However, if even one of these pieces is wrong, like for example, if your deliverability is off and your emails are going to spam, then you're not going to get any meetings or significantly less, right? If your emails are landing in spam, 90% of the people probably aren't even going to see it. And the people that do see your emails are going to think you're a scammer or not trustworthy. So this is why this is important. If your copy is off, if your lead list is off, if any one part of this whole bridge is off, then you are going to see significantly less, like 90% less meetings. And so in this video, I'm going to cover basically everything A to Z, what you need to have dialed to get the 30 meetings per month. Yeah, you need to make sure you nail all these steps to get the most out of your cold email system. So the first thing that I want to cover that you should do before you send out a single cold email is to develop a marketing thesis. So reduce your drag by increasing your results by orders of magnitude. So before you get started on any cold email type stuff, any technical stuff, any copy, lead list, you need to develop a marketing thesis. So just like the essays you wrote in high school, you need to develop a thesis on who you're going to target, what their desires and pain points are, what to offer them, and how to frame your offer, essentially doing market research. The reason why you want to do this is because it's going to increase your conversion rate of your emails. And if you don't figure this out, then your conversion rate from your cold emails isn't even going to be high enough for you to hit 30 meetings per month. And if it's slightly below where it needs to be, you're going to have to send way more cold emails just to make up for it. So this is the formula you can use to estimate your cold email performance at scale. This is leads contacted times offer resonance times 0.05 equals meetings booked. So offer resonance, this is the strength of how relevant / interesting your offer is to your audience. And I rank this between 1 and 0.01, 1 being very strong and 0.01 being very weak. So you can plug in numbers. I'm going to show examples after here. The reason why we're referring to offer resonance as an important variable, it's because your service / your offer doesn't exist in a vacuum, and it's tied to the audience that you're reaching out to. So if you have a strong offer, but you have the wrong audience, then it won't resonate. On the other hand, you could have the right audience, but the wrong offer, and it still won't resonate. So this is basically the strength / conversion rate times the leads contacted times 0.05. So an average offer resonance, that's like 1 meeting every 500 people you reach out to. A very, very weak offer resonance would be 1 meeting of every 5,000 prospects contacted. And then a very strong offer resonance is 1 meeting for every 20 prospects contacted. So you can see there is a wide range. This is why I say orders of magnitude, because on one end, if your offer is ridiculously strong, you have perfect product market fit, your offer resonates with your audience, then you could be getting 5 meetings for every 100 prospects you contact. But on the other end, if you have a weak offer, that means you could be booking 1 meeting for every 5,000 prospects contacted. So huge variance. Average offer resonance example. So yeah, if you reach out to 1,000 people and your offer resonance is smack dab in the middle, then you might get 5 meetings booked. However, if your offer is poor, for the same amount of email sent, you could only get 2 meetings booked. Once again, this is why you need to make sure this is dialed. Otherwise, you're going to have to send 2.5 times more emails just to make up for the fact of your offer. So some of the best ways to collect data is to survey your current clients. So you can get a strong idea of who wants your service based on your current client roster. And you know this because they bought your service. So if someone bought your service in the past, then you know that they're an ideal client because they are an actual buyer. So you can make hypotheses about who you think might want your service, but in reality, the people who do want your service are the people who already bought from you. You can also collect data on the offer that you have based on their pain points, desires, what to offer them from sales calls and client interviews. And so you can directly ask, here's some questions you can ask them, like, what have you tried before? What is your end goal with working with us together? What would make this a no-brainer buying decision? What can I do right now to make the service better? When you ask questions like these, you can gather more data, figure out what your audience wants, and ultimately help increase your conversion rate and figure out who you should be selling to. So using this data, you can establish a solid baseline, work your way backwards. Collecting this data might lead you to slightly tweak your offer, like adding a guarantee or switching headcount targets, or significantly change your offer / targeting. For example, like changing the deliverables, changing the industries. You can learn a lot just by surveying people and trying to talk to people to figure out what they want, because that's ultimately what cold email is. You are just sending emails out to real people, and whatever you're saying is going to real people. So surveying real people is going to give you the answers to the questions of whether or not they're going to be interested in getting on the phone with you. So document all this data at minimum before moving on to the next step. Who is my ideal client? The job titles, industries, the company size, location, pain points, and then what you're selling to them. So the promise, the outcome, outcome, the risk reversals, time frame, unique mechanism. Make sure you collect this. The more detailed research you do into the market, the better. It's not 100% necessary because you can just guess, but this is going to really make or break the conversion rate of your campaign. So don't fight the market. That's the last thing I'll leave you with on that section. So step 2, we're going to be talking about building your prospect list so you can be booking 30 meetings per month, loading the cannon. So after you develop your offer and spoken to your market, you're going to start building a prospect list of these ideal customers so we can reach out to them via cold email. So using the data you gathered in the previous section, pinpoint the people you should target and how you should speak to them, you can use this to start crafting the list. So building the list can vary in difficulty depending on how intricate you want to get with it and what criteria you have. But if you're falling within the normal ranges, like as we discussed above, job titles, industry, company size, location, most of this can be scraped using these tools. So tools like Apollo, ZoomInfo, ListKit, they recently came out with a SaaS, you can check them out. Crunchbase, Store Leads, Instant Data Scraper, you can use this to scrape different data sources, are all useful tools in actually developing your lead list. So if you're looking to sustainably, and keywords is sustainably, book 30 meetings per month, you're going to need to have a wide audience, right? You can book 30 meetings in 1 month, but if you completely tap out your audience, then you're not going to have anyone else to book meetings with and your calendar is going to dry up pretty quickly. So I would say at minimum, you need 10,000 contacts, 10,000 emails, and realistically have like 30,000 plus if you want to be doing this consistently. That gives you enough runway to be able to send enough emails and also recycle leads after a certain amount of time has elapsed so you don't burn through the whole market. So these platforms also provide other key data points such as their name, location, name, company details, which you can use to personalize the email further and help you book more meetings. Make sure you utilize the headcount filters. This is something that people critically mess up in your lead list. One of the biggest benefits of sending cold emails compared to doing cold DMs and other forms of cold outreach that people do is that you can get super targeted data. So you can get, if you want to target enterprise, you want to target high paying clients, then you can use the data in the database versus if you're sending out Facebook DMs to try and book meetings. One of the issues is that you can't filter by different headcounts. So make sure you use that to get the right people on the phone. So after you scrape the data, you're going to need to validate the emails next. The reason why you do this is because if you don't, you're going to have a high bounce rate and it's going to destroy your email's reputation, make you land in spam. So if you want more information on this, I have another YouTube video. It'll be linked somewhere on this part of the video, but still finish this video because you want to learn the rest of this information. So the next step we're going to cover is writing your scripts so you can book 30 meetings per month. After you research your market, you're going to want to use this guide to build some copy. A great exercise for you to build copy before I go into the nitty gritty is to actually go through your lead list. So you're going to have 10,000 different contacts. You can go and click on their LinkedIn profile and just imagine you were writing an email directly to that person. And then you can use that. So you can do that 5 different times, write 5 different emails, and then you can use what you specifically sent to that person and apply it to your general template that you're going to be sending over to thousands of people. The reason why this works well is because it's going to train you to write emails directly to people, not to a big audience of people. That's where a lot of people mess up, is they write emails as if they're talking to thousands of people, not just one person. So here's a simple email structure that you can follow. The most simple structure is to have a broadly personalized opener, explain what you offer, add a case study, and have a call to action. What this could look like is, hey Sam, notice you're in the staffing space, thought I could provide some value. We help staffing firms find qualified candidates 253% faster using our hiring platform. You input your hiring criteria and serve 5 tailored resumes to your team. Open to trying this for free. So this is for a hypothetical staffing SaaS that would appeal to a staffing firm. Very clear, just very clear personalized opener. Explain what you can offer, why your service is better, and then a strong call to action. So this is like a free trial. This is an example. Simple cold email script. I have another video on my channel diving into how you can write the copy so you can dive deeper in there. If you're selling a relevant solution to a relevant audience, then your copy will broadly work, but the more personalized and human you can make it sound, the better. So yeah, obviously copy is important. One thing I do want to stress though, is while it is important, there's a ton of angles that you can reach out with, different ways you can frame the copy. But the core of the copy is that you're actually providing something relevant to the audience and you're articulating it in a way that's short and concise. So here's some best practices. Keep your copy as concise as possible, ideally readable in less than 20 seconds. Make sure your copy is relevant to the exact people that you're reaching out to, and highlight the word exact, because if you use terms or terminology that isn't relevant to a certain audience, then it won't matter. If you're not using a value prop that's relevant to the job title that you're reaching out to, then it's not going to matter. Personalize as much as possible, make a clear call to action and make it actionable, and then don't include images or links because they increase the likelihood that you're going to be ending up in spam. So for subject lines, quick note on that, focus on making it sound intriguing and give them a reason to open. You can have a subject line that's relevant to your offer, like staff 3 times more candidates, or an intrigued based opener like, hey, quick question. You should make sure that you have 3 to 5 follow-ups in your email sequence to make sure that people are given multiple chances to book in with you. The reason why is because a lot of people don't just book in on the first email. If you're in sales, I'm sure you guys understand the power of follow-up, but a lot of times people get busy. Someone might actually be interested, but they were busy at the time, and so they don't respond. And so I personally see about 50 to 60% of the meetings that I book come from the follow-up emails. All right, so on to the next section, building the email infrastructure and sending. So this is more of the technical part. So we covered building your lead list, building your copy. Now we're going to cover building the email infrastructure, how you can actually send cold emails at scale so that you are booking 30 meetings per month. The first part that I'm going to cover is the email infrastructure. So the technical part, right? These processes are constantly evolving as email service providers play a cat and mouse game with people who want to send cold emails. However, there's some best practices about building out cold email infrastructure and what works right now. But the current 2 ways that you can build email infrastructure are by using a dedicated VPS. A VPS is essentially a virtual private server. It's a personal server that you can host yourself, or using the ESPs that already exist. So yeah, both are somewhat technical to set up, but the current best practices for sending cold emails at scale are to use established ESPs such as Google or Microsoft to set up your cold email infrastructure, because they manage the IP reputation for you. If you don't know what any of this means, basically just use Google or Microsoft because they handle all the technical stuff for you, at least on the back end email type stuff. If you're sending off your own server, then you're responsible for maintaining your own IP, and you're seen as less reputable because you're not using Gmail or Outlook. Another best practice for setting up your email infrastructure is to horizontally scale your email sending, meaning buying more domains and email accounts to send emails from, rather than individually scaling from the same inbox. So in this diagram, individually scaling would be like sending 160 emails per day from one email inbox, and this would land you in spam, versus horizontal scaling would be buying multiple email accounts and under multiple domains, so you can send multiple emails and get the same amount of volume just spread across more, and this will cause you to land in the inbox instead of the spam. The general rule of thumb is to make sure that you are sending less emails per inbox, because the less the better, and the less email accounts that you have per domain, like the per URL that you have, the better. You can safely send 30 to 50 emails per day per inbox, and you can have 3 inboxes per domain. However, I prefer to go on the safe side of both of those metrics. The exact numbers, once again, I will caveat this to make sure this is time correct. The exact numbers are constantly changing, but general rule of thumb, again, the less emails per account, the less emails sent per day, the better. To set this up, you need to buy multiple domains with similar names to your main email, set up the DNS records, the SPF, the DKIM, and the DMARC, build inboxes and users, set up a master inbox, tag it, connect it all to the sending tool to have them sent out. And I have other resources to cover this. So the next step that we're going to talk about is the sending tool. So after you set up all the actual infrastructure, you're going to need to connect it to a tool so you can actually send the 500 or so emails per day. 500 is an arbitrary number that I'm using here to say this is like the minimum you're probably going to need to send to be able to get 30 meetings per month. But to be able to manage all these sends, you're going to need to use a sending tool, because obviously you're not going to want to do this manually. So the sending tool will manage your email warmups, which will help increase your deliverability, make sure your emails land in the primary inbox, and also manage the sending of the emails. So there's a few tools that can help you with this: Smart Lead, Instantly, Omni, Lemlist, Mailshake, QuickMail, just to name a few of them. Personally, right now, I recommend using Smart Lead, but plenty of these tools have their own merits. A lot of these tools tend to be more expensive, these more legacy tools. QuickMail recently released a free plan, so there are tons of different options to go from. I personally recommend using tools that have warm up built in as part of their service and that don't charge you based on how many emails account you have connected. So these are tools like Smart Lead, Instantly, I'm pretty sure Omni as well. Then you can upload the lead list, the copy, the email accounts into these tools and set up campaigns to reach out to everyone automatically. So now we're on to step 5, crossing the finishing line, actually converting converting interested replies into sales calls. So after you're sending out all these emails, you should be getting replies at this point, and it's your job as a sales rep essentially to turn these interested replies that people get into meetings. So converting these interested replies into meetings is, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked part about running a cold email campaign. Many people pour all this time, effort, energy into the system, but then don't figure out how they should be responding to emails, doing it in an efficient way to turn an interested prospect into a meeting. Assuming everything is set up properly to this point and the campaign's live, you should be getting all kinds of replies like, what's the price? Tell me more information. I'm interested. I'm not interested. Can you reach out to me later next week? No thanks. And so you need to be diligent and respond to all these emails timely and effectively, because letting one of these emails slip through the cracks could be losing out on a potential deal, let alone a potential meeting. So you can connect your email inboxes to a CRM or build out a master inbox through the email sending tool that you're using to effectively tag and manage these accordingly. And depending on the volume you're sending, you should be dedicating anywhere between like 30 minutes and 2 hours to managing the inboxes that you have throughout the day to make sure that you're actually thoroughly answering and following up with everyone. This is one thing a lot of people overlook, is that they think, okay, I'm just going to send out all these emails, but just like any other like sales position, it's not just all these meetings getting booked on autopilot. You need to have someone who's following up and answering these thoroughly, because that's going to make or break whether or not they actually want to get on the call with you, because people do have questions. So to increase the speed to reply, you can have templates built out for each reply. Like these are some really common responses you get, so you can build out templates for these. So for example, a templated reply about pricing could look like this. Hey name, our pricing varies depending on the package, but here's our base plan. If this is within your budget, we should schedule a time to chat, and then suggesting a time. So you can use this as like a template, for example, for what a pricing question could look like. Ideally, these templates give you a good place to start, but most replies will have deeper nuance and won't be directly applicable with the template. So make sure you're still using your brain with this. I see a big mistake a lot of people make is they outsource it to someone who just has a bunch of templates, and then they're not actually taking the time to go through the nuance depending on the question that the people ask, because the template might not always answer everything. So many of the interested prospects that you reply to might not answer. You might get someone who asks for information, and after providing it, they might just ghost you. So these hot leads should be followed up with every 2 to 5 days to maximize the meetings you book, and you can arrange these follow-ups in your CRM or your master inbox, whatever tool you're using. But this is super crucial, because a lot of the meetings that you book are going to be a result of multiple follow-ups after they've already expressed interest, because once again, people get busy, their lives get cluttered, and so you have to come in and make sure that you are top of mind for them. All right, and so the last thing I want to cover in this video is emails equals cash, working your way backwards. So cold email is a volume game at the end of the day. The biggest mistake I see people make is they set everything up and then they don't push enough volume through the system. So going back to our diagram, we have the bridge built out, and then we need to be pushing volume across the bridge. So if you're looking to book 30 plus meetings per month, which is what you came to this video for, I'd recommend that you'd be sending a bare minimum of 500 emails per day, assuming everything is dialed in, and ideally more, because some parts are going to break and you're going to have to make up for different parts of the system. So I want to note that in the formula that I showed before, we were using leads contacted, not email sent. So if you're sending optimally and using a 5 email sequence, for example, or a 3 email sequence or a 6 email sequence, that 1 email might not equal 1 new lead contact. So an email sequence with 5 steps and you're sending 500 emails per day, that might only equate to 100 net new contacts per day, which is why it's important that you are setting up enough emails, you did the math, and then in the future, you can use the data you have to tweak your system and predictably get as many meetings as you want. So once you set up the system and collect the data, you're going to be able to generate meetings on demand. You're going to figure out, for example, if you book 1 meeting for every 500 emails, then all you need to do is send 500 emails per day, and then you can achieve 1 meeting per day, which will get you to the 30 meetings per month mark. So email sent. So here's an example diagram. So email sent, if you send 100 emails and you get 1 positive reply, 5 positive replies convert into 1 booked meeting, 7 booked meetings equals 1 closed deal, then you can use this math to, number 1, predictably realize, hey, if I send 500 emails per day, I'm going to get 1 meeting per day. And if you send 3,500 emails, you're going to likely get a closed deal, assuming that your sales closing rate is dialed, and you can use those figures. So once all this is mapped out, you're going to be able to predictably get as many meetings as you need after all the data is collected, because all the math is going to be there right in front of you, and you can use this to scale your system as needed. So this is what the math looks like, assuming you have each step dialed in. But if you knew that you just need to have 3,500 emails sent to get a closed deal, it would be pretty straightforward how you can scale your business. All right, so if you made it this far, congratulations, because you probably know more about cold email than 99% of people. So now take with it and run. Now, if you watch this video and you're like, man, this is really confusing, I just want someone to figure this out, you can click the first link in the description below and apply to work with me and my team over at Anivo Marketing. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and check out the other videos on this channel, and I will see you in the next video.